Chapter 1. Entering the Palace. My name is Chu Mingyue, and I am 15 years old. I was born on a night when a brilliant full moon illuminated the sky, and my father, inspired by a line of poetry, named me after that radiant moonlight, which filled my heart with the chill of winter. As for my lineage, it is quite illustrious. My grandfather is the Duke of Yan, my grandmother is Princess Yongin, my father has inherited my grandfather's title, and my mother, the daughter of a minister, is a gentle and virtuous lady of high standing. My three elder brothers are all valiant military generals, and I have an elder sister who is married to the emperor's grandson, the current crown prince. If fate allows, I too shall be betrothed to a scion of a prominent family, leading a life reminiscent of my mother's gracious, nurturing, and surrounded by opulence and tranquility. I am quite content with such an arrangement, hoping to marry a husband as brave and devoted as my father, sharing a lifelong bond. Once again, the Mid-Autumn Festival has arrived. This evening, the moon shines exceptionally bright, casting a silvery glow that feels both chilly and solitary. I take delight in gazing at the moon and celebrating the festival, as the general's residence adorns itself with beautiful lanterns, and beneath the osmanthus tree in the courtyard, offerings are made to the moon goddess, accompanied by fragrant incense. As I follow my grandmother in paying homage to the moon, my eyes are drawn to the exquisite array of delicacies on the pear blossom altar. Being naturally fond of sweets, I find myself utterly powerless against the allure of delightful pastries and treats. This year's Mid-Autumn Festival was joyful, though tinged with a hint of regret. My sister married earlier in the year. My eldest brother has been appointed as General Zhaoyong to guard the borders, and my second brother is away leading troops against bandits. The family gathering for the reunion dinner lacked the warmth of previous years, leaving a sense of emptiness. On the second day of the festival, my sister sent someone to escort me to the palace. Since childhood, my sister has always been kind to me. Although she is merely 2 years my senior, she has consistently shown me deference and protection. Even after her marriage, she often sends me various pastries and candies from the palace. The pastries made in the palace are delectable, crispy, chewy, and bursting with sweetness. Thus, I was thrilled at the prospect of visiting the palace, eagerly anticipating the exquisite treats that awaited me. I rose early to prepare, knowing that such an occasion required a more elaborate attire. Dressed in resplendent jewels and adorned with heavy hairpins and ornaments, my neck felt nearly burdened by their weight. The young maid, Ling Si, gazed at me in admiration, exclaiming, "Miss, you are truly beautiful. You resemble the moon goddess Chang'e." As I surveyed my reflection in the bronze mirror, bedecked in finery and jewels, I felt far from the ethereal, transcendent figure of a celestial being. Upon arriving at the palace, the sun had already risen, casting a vibrant orange glow that burst forth from behind the clouds, illuminating the resplendent halls of the palace's site, both breathtaking and imposing, instilling a sense of reverence. The palace is vast, resembling a labyrinth, with tall walls and winding stone paths, countless vermilion gates stretching endlessly. Our carriage passed over a large lake, where the sunlight danced upon the emerald waters, creating rippling patterns, and a cool breeze carried the crispness of autumn, evoking a sense of solitude. Not long ahead lies the Jade Blossom Hall of Crown Prince Xiao Zhanwen, beneath a cerulean sky where red walls and green eaves rise gracefully, their curving corners reaching towards the heavens, while the golden glazed tiles glisten in the morning sunlight. My sister has prepared a lavish spread of delectable pastries and candies awaiting my arrival. Most of these treats bear names I cannot even articulate. The sweet yet not cloying plum blossom-shaped cakes coated in sugar, the translucent emerald square cakes that melt in the mouth, golden flaky pastries, black sugar pearl soup, candied plums, and colorful molten heart candies. I indulge to my heart's content, even beginning to feel a twinge of envy towards my sister, for the cooks in the general's residence cannot craft such exquisite confections. You have grown, and you mustn't consume so many sweets, or else you will gain weight, and that would not be becoming, my sister remarks, her face a blend of delight at my appetite and concern for my well-being. Since childhood, she has been particularly mindful of her appearance, and indeed, she is a beauty unparalleled in the world. With her elegantly arched willow leaf brows, enchanting apricot-shaped eyes, delicate jade-like nose, and a figure as graceful as a swaying willow, Every aspect of her is exquisitely captivating. I feel myself lacking in comparison to her ethereal charm. It's quite all right, I practice martial arts daily, and this little indulgence will be digested in no time. I want gain weight, I reply with a grin, shoving another piece of plum blossom cake into my mouth. My sister furrows her brow. Though we come from a family of martial generals, we cannot solely focus on wielding weapons. As a young lady, you will eventually marry, and it is wise to practice the arts of music, chess, poetry, and embroidery. I have little interest in composing poetry or playing musical instruments, nor do I enjoy embroidery or feminine crafts. Perhaps my lack of inherent talent is what causes my sister such concern. Sister, I do not wish to marry just yet. I respond dismissively, continuing to feast. With a resigned sigh, my sister seems poised to say more, but at that moment, a eunuch announces, "Your Highness has arrived." My sister quickly rises to greet him, and I hastily swallow the morsel still lodged in my mouth. Before I can finish, a man clad in a moon-white brocade robe steps inside. As I follow my sister in bowing, I force down the last bite of cake. Xiao Zhanwen possesses a slender build and a delicate appearance. With a nose like jade and rosy lips, his eyes resembling willow leaves that evoke the gentle warmth of spring, exuding an air of refined nobility. I had last seen this favored grandson of the emperor during a previous visit to the palace to see my sister. At this moment, he gazes at me, a smile gracing his lips, his eyes sparkling with a hint of amusement. After our bowing, my sister retrieves a handkerchief to dab at the corners of my mouth, and I suddenly realize that I still bear traces of pastry crumbs, causing my cheeks to flush with embarrassment. He is seated before the emptied platter of pastries, and for the first time, I feel a pang of shame. My lack of decorum in eating hardly reflects the poise of a refined young lady, and I surely have brought embarrassment upon my sister. "Your Highness, how fares His Majesty's health?" I overhear my sister inquire. The gentle smile fades from his face, replaced by a furrowed brow as he sighs. "The Emperor's condition is worsening," the court physicians say. He abruptly stops, casting a glance in my direction. My sister immediately comprehends and turns to me with a gentle smile. The scenery in the Imperial Garden is splendid. Allow Levian to accompany you for a stroll." Even in my dullness, I realize that my elder sister is deliberately diverting my attention. In truth, I am also aware that the current emperor is gravely ill. These past few days, my father has been in a foul mood, burdened with thoughts, likely concerning the emperor's condition. Thus, I obediently nodded in acknowledgement.
Chapter 2 The Prince. The imperial garden resembled a celestial paradise, adorned with extraordinary flowers and peculiar plants, verdant trees, and towering bamboos, casting a lush shade. Under the green willows like wisps of smoke, crystal-clear spring water flowed gently beneath the vermilion bridge, while pavilions and towers, intricately carved balustrades and jade-like structures surrounded the scene, creating a picturesque tableau. The sun cast a warm glow upon a waterfall amidst the towering rock formations, sparkling like crystal as a gentle breeze swayed the bamboo, bringing forth the fragrance of rare orchids. As I leisurely admired the beauty, I wandered quite a distance, finding myself before another serene and elegant view of a rockery pavilion. My companion, Green Cloud, suggested, "Miss, after such a long walk, you must be weary. Let us rest in that pavilion over there." She had been the close maid of my elder sister, having been sold to the General's household in her youth and serving my sister ever since, even accompanying her upon marriage. Green Cloud was indeed lovely, with a slender figure, fair complexion, an oval face, crescent-shaped brows, and eyes that, though not large, sparkled with intelligence. I glanced towards the pavilion, nestled among the flowering trees on a gentle rise ahead, revealing a corner of its eaves, exuding tranquility. I felt a bit fatigued and thought of resting before returning to bid farewell to my sister, for my grandmother had advised me to limit my time within the palace before entering. After descending a flight of stairs, the pavilion came into view. Just as I ascended a couple more steps, two figures emerged from a densely wooded path leading down the mountain. The man in front wore a purple-red narrow-sleeved robe, intricately embroidered with golden cloud patterns at the collar and cuffs, glinting softly in the sunlight. A jade belt cinched his slender waist. His thick black hair styled into an elegant bun adorned with a golden crown. With long brows and refined features, his sharp gaze held an icy intensity, exuding a noble and commanding presence. Following closely behind was a portly eunuch, bowing and scraping, speaking in hushed tones, "Your Highness, time is of the essence." Preparations must be made. As the man in purple was about to respond, he caught sight of us, his eyes narrowing, piercing like a blade. The plump eunuch recognized Green Cloud, and his previously ingratiating smile faltered. In a hurry, Green Cloud knelt and bowed to the man in purple, exclaiming, "This humble servant greets the prince." The man paid her no heed, his frosty gaze still fixed on me. "Who are you, that you dare to be so disrespectful before the prince?" The eunuch questioned, his tone surprisingly gentle, perhaps recognizing my fine attire. Replying, "To your highness. Miss Yue is the younger sister of the crown princess. She has come to visit today," Green Cloud replied brightly, signaling me with her eyes, urging me to bow. I felt a pang of embarrassment for staring at him foolishly, yet despite his stern demeanor, he was undeniably handsome. I hastily performed a bow. But he had already turned away, striding past me in silence, a refreshing fragrance trailing in his wake as his composed figure vanished into the shadows of the trees. The portly eunuch inclined his body slightly in my direction, saying nothing, though his expression was far from pleasant, as he followed the prince. "Who is that prince?" I inquired of Green Cloud. "He is His Highness, the fourth Prince Chiwang, recently returned from the battlefield. A few days ago, he visited the Crown Prince's residence. Hence the maid recognized him." At this point, Luyun's face revealed a hint of trepidation. "Miss, we have inadvertently offended him today, I fear. It turns out he is the renowned Chiwang Xiaoyu, famed for his military prowess and formidable presence, which explains the little glint in his eyes. I often overheard my brothers praise his valor and his campaigns against the northern deserts, envisioning him as a rugged warrior. Yet I was taken aback to find him resembling the ideal romantic figure of every maiden's dreams. How could we have offended him? I was utterly perplexed throughout our encounter. We scarcely uttered a word, as he merely glared at us the entire time. Upon returning to the general's residence, my grandmother summoned me. She inquired meticulously about my elder sister's condition, and upon learning that all was well, she felt greatly relieved. "Grandmother, the crown prince mentioned that the emperor is gravely ill," I remarked inadvertently. My grandmother fell silent for a moment, her gaze filled with tenderness as she spoke, "Where you shall not enter the palace any longer. In due time, I shall find a suitable husband for you, and a peaceful life would be most desirable." I sensed a weight in her words. Yet I could not quite grasp their meaning. The mention of selecting a suitor inexplicably reminded me of the Chiwang I encountered in the Imperial Garden, causing my cheeks to flush. I initially intended to share the tale of our meeting with my grandmother, but for reasons unknown, the words caught in my throat. The following day, I awoke late and hurried to the training grounds in the rear courtyard, where my third brother was already practicing. His spear play was exquisite, leaving me in awe. Serving in the capital, my third brother, being young and inexperienced, held a modest position and thus practiced diligently each day, awaiting the day he could fight on the battlefield in service to our nation. As for me, I was both playful and lacking in resolve, without any grand aspirations. Merely following my brother's lead with a sporadic commitment to training, resulting in mediocre skills. After concluding his routine, my brother effortlessly stood at attention, neither flushed nor breathless, with only a slight sheen of sweat at his temples. "Bravo!" I clapped and cheered from the sidelines. He returned the spear to the weapon rack. Teasing me with a grin, the ancients rose with the crowing of roosters. "You, however, only awaken when the sun is high." "It's not that late," I replied sheepishly. My brother glanced at the bow and arrows in my hand, urging, "Let me see if you've improved." I felt a wave of anxiety as I scratched my head, realizing I had not practiced archery for nearly a week. If not for my brother's sudden challenge, my bow would have remained quietly hung on the wall. As expected, none of my arrows struck the target. I felt disheartened, while my brother sighed and chuckled. "How long has it been since you last handled this Siqiao bow?" Not too long," I stammered, my face flushed. "You are so negligent." I worry that once you join the army, without anyone to oversee you, your skills will be utterly deplorable, my brother expressed with concern. Startled, I quickly asked, Brother, are you going to enlist? He nodded. I have already pledged my service under Chi Wang, accompanying him to the frontier to battle the enemy. In a fleeting moment, an indescribable sorrow enveloped my heart. My elder brothers were perpetually engaged in their campaigns, and I scarcely saw their faces throughout the year. Now, with the imminent departure of my third brother to the frontier, I felt a profound sense of melancholy and desolation for the first time, tears welling in my eyes. Moon, why do you weep? He sighed, likely sharing in the sentiment. Third brother, I cannot bear to see you go. I choked on my words, my tears cascading like pearls that had slipped from their string. He approached me gently, tenderly wiping away my tears. Do not cry, dear Moon. As a warrior, it is my duty to fight on the battlefield and protect our homeland. After I leave, you must diligently practice your martial arts. For I shall certainly test your skills upon my return. I nodded absent-mindedly, unable to stem the flow of tears. Third brother, when will you depart? Given that the emperor is unwell, it is likely that Prince Chi will remain in the capital for some time. He continued, now do not weep any longer. This evening, I shall take you to admire the lanterns, if you wish. He spoke to me as one would soothe a child. Aware of my fondness for wandering among the lanterns and watching the fireworks. Each Mid-Autumn festival, the moonlight illuminated the lantern-filled mountains, and the brilliant display was truly enchanting. Chapter 3 Reunion. Having spent the entire day confined within my room, my spirits were low until the evening when I finally mustered some energy. I adorned myself in a dress of emerald-hued silk, simply gathering my hair with a ribbon. Lingxi deemed my attire too plain and, after much deliberation over hair ornaments, added a string of vibrant green crystal tassels that cascaded alongside my dark tresses, shimmering brilliantly and indeed enhancing my appearance. Third brother had been waiting outside for quite some time. He looked particularly dashing tonight, with his hair bound in a silver crown. Clad in a deep azure brocade robe with arrow sleeves, cinched at the waist with a silver-patterned belt from which hung an exquisite carved jade pendant. His countenance was like that of a jade crown, with sword-like brows and starry eyes, exuding an aura of vigor reminiscent of a jade tree in the wind. To be fair, among my three brothers, third brother was the most handsome. Suitors had flocked to our door, yet he remained steadfastly focused on achieving success on the battlefield. Showing no inclination towards marriage, thus delaying any prospects of a union. Why the delay? He inquired with a frown as I finally made my appearance. I stepped forward, linking my arm with his and offering a bright smile. It was Lingxi's insistence. She had me try on several outfits and fussed over my hair, which caused the hold-up. Third brother regarded me with a measured gaze, exclaiming in admiration, "You look splendid. A girl ought to embody femininity. If you were to style your hair up, you would appear even more like a refined young lady." Lingxi had suggested a lily bun for me. Yet I found it cumbersome and dreaded keeping third brother waiting too long. I had no desire to adorn myself with an abundance of jewels. After my last return from the palace, the weight of the heavy ornaments had left my neck sore for days. The streets were alive with vibrant lanterns and dazzling fireworks, nearly overshadowing the moonlit night. The marketplace buzzed with excitement, where elegantly dressed men and women strolled in groups, laughter and cheer resonating all around, painting a picture of a prosperous era. As third brother and I squeezed through the bustling crowd, the city lights resembled a kaleidoscope of glass. Not far ahead, a gathering surrounded a lantern riddle booth. Eagerly, I tugged third brother toward the throng, stretching my neck to glimpse the riddles adorning the lanterns. I attempted several guesses, all of which were incorrect, leaving me quite disheartened. Third brother, perhaps exasperated by my lack of talent, stepped in himself, effortlessly solving a few riddles and winning a small white rabbit lantern. He handed it to me, then imparting earnestly, you ought to read more." I gazed at the little rabbit lantern, its red eyes not particularly appealing to me. My true desire lay with the majestic golden dragon in third brother's eyes. I might forever remain that little girl who once cherished pet rabbits. The streets were filled with an array of enticing snacks, steam rising and aromas wafting through the air, awakening my appetite. Third brother, I'm hungry, let us find something to eat. As I contemplated indulging in a delightful meal, a bespectacled eunuch approached us. Lord Chu. He bowed with a delicate voice. Third brother did not recognize him, and in a moment of confusion, the eunuch continued, His Highness Prince Chi requests your presence. Ruelin Tower. The grandest establishment in the marketplace stood 3 stories high, its ornate architecture and intricately carved beams exuding an air of magnificence. Adorned with bright red lanterns that illuminated the night with a celebratory glow. The room was already teeming with people, the lively sounds of drinking and merriment echoing within, as vibrant as the bustling streets outside. We followed the elder to a lavishly adorned private chamber. The space was spacious, with a thick carpet covering the floor, while intricately gilded peony vases adorned the sandalwood shelves, accompanied by the delicate fragrance of incense that wafted gently, pleasant yet subtle. A round table draped in tasseled satin was laden with exquisite delicacies and fine wines, with the Prince of Chi seated at the head. This was our second encounter. His hair was tied with black jade, and he donned a dark silk robe with golden trimmings, understated yet opulent. During our first meeting, he appeared stern and imposing, which overshadowed my initial impression of his striking features. However, upon seeing him again, I could not help but admire his elegance even more than before. My brother stepped forward, one knee touching the ground, respectfully declaring, Your Highness. I knelt down as well, pondering how I thought I might never see him again, yet here we were so soon. Rise, he commanded, his voice as chilling as his demeanor, yet strangely melodic. I stood up awkwardly alongside my brother, sensing his gaze briefly linger on the small rabbit I held in my hands before swiftly averting. Please, take a seat. His words were few, contrasting sharply with the amiable and gentle nature of the Crown Prince, another royal scion. The disparity was striking. Dining in the presence of such a aloof prince was undeniably discomforting. I sat upright, scarcely daring to rest fully on the chair, striving to maintain an air of deference. The most agonizing aspect was the tantalizing array of delectable dishes before me, particularly a few trays of desserts that looked utterly irresistible, yet I refrained from using my chopsticks. My brother, too, was uneasy and cautious. A slight smile graced the prince's lips, suggesting a hint of warmth. There is no need for such formality. I happened to see you two while rewarding lanterns, and thus summoned you to join me for a drink. Thank you, Your Highness. My brother quickly expressed his gratitude. We feigned a few bites of food, and my brother raised a cup of wine in toast with the prince. I have heard that Miss Chu possesses remarkable archery skills. I too wish to witness your prowess, he stated, shifting the conversation towards me. For a moment, I was taken aback, unable to fully comprehend that he was referring to me. Where? My brother whispered urgently, noticing my dazed expression. As I blinked once, my flustered gaze collided with his frosty, aquamarine eyes, and my heart raced with confusion and guilt. How did he come to hear of my archery skills? Who was so irresponsibly spreading such rumors? How could I possibly respond? Moon, the prince is inquiring about you. My third brother sounded somewhat anxious. My archery is not impressive. It would be better if the prince did not observe, I stammered, my words tumbling out incoherently. This time, the Chi prince truly smiled. I found it difficult to articulate the beauty of his smile, reminiscent of radiant sunlight melting away winter's frost, dazzling and brilliant, akin to the gentle ripples of spring water as it thaws. In short, it was extraordinarily captivating. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, my father was summoned to the palace by the emperor, returning only by evening. During dinner, my father wore a solemn expression, devoid of any smile. Not only did my third brother and I refrain from speaking, but my mother also cautiously observed his countenance, for my father rarely exhibited such sternness. After a heavy dinner, my grandmother called my father away, while my third brother went to practice his marksmanship. As the Chi prince had indeed invited us to the royal residence for a display of martial prowess. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, particularly regretting my habitual laziness. Alas, Tomorrow's visit to the Chi Prince's residence would undoubtedly lead to embarrassment. Early the next morning, Lingxi began to prepare me for the day. Miss, for the royal residence, you should wear pink. Your complexion is already as lovely as peach blossoms. And this hue will accentuate your beauty. Lingxi produced a light pink gauze gown, embroidered with silver threads, which shimmered like starlight with the slightest movement. The gentle pink indeed complemented my complexion, rendering me both delicate and sweet. She tied a pink silk sash around my waist and adorned it with an exquisite, auspicious pouch. Yet, my spirits were low. I had no inclination for such adornment. Hurry, Lingxi, or my brother will grow impatient. Almost done. Lingxi carefully inserted 2 intricately carved magnolia blossoms into my neatly styled hair. I'm merely visiting the royal residence, not participating in a beauty pageant. It's fine to keep it simple. How can you be so casual when you look so beautiful, miss? Lingxi insisted, putting the finishing touches on my attire. As I stepped outside, my third brother sat regally atop a magnificent white steed, impeccably dressed, wielding his ebony spear with poise, exuding vigor and confidence. I sluggishly climbed into the palanquin, pondering how I might evade this impending ordeal. Chapter 4: Archery. The Chi Wang mansion is not far from the imperial palace, and its imposing entrance instills a sense of awe. A group of servants had long awaited our arrival, with the lead being the same eunuch Lu from our previous encounter. As our carriage approached the entrance, they hurried forward, and eunuch Lu graciously held the curtain for me, his face beaming with a smile. The second young lady. The prince has been waiting for you. Waiting for me? A strange sensation washed over me, leaving me perplexed and uncertain as to why. The Chi Wang mansion is indeed magnificent, with its numerous courtyards stretching endlessly, towering pavilions resplendent like clouds, adorned with elegant terraces, gardens, and corridors, rivaling the beauty of the imperial palace. Countless servants and maidens greeted us with deep bows, stepping aside with utmost respect, revealing the strict decorum that governed the place. I began to feel grateful to Lingxi, given the maidservants of Chi Wang mansion were dressed in luxurious finery, their beauty and grace undeniable. Had I barged in unkempt, it would have been quite embarrassing. We were led directly to the Chi Wang's training ground, which was several times larger than that of the general's estate. The ground was laid with smooth blue bricks, and long racks displayed an array of gleaming weapons. There was also a 2-story observation pavilion, where snacks, fruits, and fragrant tea were prepared. The Chi Wang leisurely sipped his tea, patiently awaiting our arrival. Today, he donned a striking red outfit, a delicate golden hairpin holding his silky black hair neatly against his back. His skin was almost translucent, and his chiseled features were sculpted with precision, his deep black eyes exuding an icy intensity against the backdrop of his vibrant attire. The Chu clan has a long lineage of martial generals. Even the women are no match for men. This prince has cherished the art of combat since childhood, eager to witness the prowess of a military family. The Chi Wang's smile was always subtle. It is an honor for me to spar with His Highness. My third brother's fighting spirit was palpable. I, however, kept my head down in silence, anxious that the Chi Wang's attention might shift towards me. I shall first experience the spear techniques of General Chu, however. I am known for my merciless approach in battle. General Chu must give his all, without holding back. Understood. I settled in the pavilion to watch the match unfold. The Chi Wang's crimson attire was dazzling, while my brother's white garments gleamed like freshly fallen snow. The two figures danced around each other, their spears intertwining. Initially, I remained unfazed, leisurely enjoying the pastries while admiring the splendid display of martial skill. Yet, as the battle intensified, I sensed a shift in momentum. The Chi Wang's spear moved with astonishing speed, akin to a flurry of cold stars, or the gentle fall of pear blossoms, swift and lethal. Each strike aimed with deadly precision. My brother struggled to keep up, his defenses faltering. I could no longer remain seated, unease compelled me to rise, my heart racing. Just then, the flash of silver pierced the air. The Chi Wang's spear struck my brother's chest. A thunderous roar echoed in my mind, and a scream nearly escaped my throat as icy dread coursed through me. prompting me to rush downstairs in a daze. The Chi Wang withdrew his silver spear, revealing my brother unscathed, save for a small bloodstain on his clothing. It appeared he had merely been grazed. My heart continued to pound, my legs felt weak, and cold sweat drenched my garments. His Highness's spear technique is divine, I am but a humble servant in comparison. My brother's face was one of shame. The reputation of the Chu family's spear techniques was well deserved. General Chu's skills were exceptional, though perhaps lacking slightly in speed and force. King Chi nodded in appreciation, calling for his guards to escort third brother for treatment. It was merely a flesh wound, nothing of great concern. Third brother hurriedly declined, asserting that it was an accident on his part and that there were excellent medicinal remedies for cuts in the royal palace. With the application of salve by the esteemed General Chu, he would be at ease. Reluctantly, third brother acquiesced and followed the guards to receive care. My anxiety compelled me to follow, but King Chi intercepted me, suggesting that Miss Chu could wait here. He had heard of the Chu family's unparalleled marksmanship and archery, and had longed for the opportunity to witness it. Would Miss Chu be able to enlighten him? The earlier shock of third brother being shot morphed into another form of trepidation. The Chu family's archery was formidable. My elder brothers could hit a target from 100 paces, and even my sister surpassed my skills tenfold. If King Chi truly wished to observe the Chu family's archery through me, it would undoubtedly be a moment of embarrassment. Your Highness, my archery skills are truly lacking, I murmured, my voice barely audible, my face ablaze with embarrassment. King Chi furrowed his brows, his expression darkening with displeasure. He could not fathom why Miss Chu would refuse. I have already conveyed my reasons, what more is there to misunderstand? Do you wish for me to humiliate myself before you? Yet, such thoughts remained unspoken, choked in my throat. Royal commands were not to be disobeyed. Since he did not believe me, I could only brace myself for the ordeal. I took my stance, casting a furtive glance at him, his intense gaze sending waves of unease through me. Miraculously, I missed the target with several arrows, and in my nervousness, one arrow even failed to reach the target altogether. My face burned with embarrassment. It seemed he had no words to express regarding my lack of accuracy. I did mention my skills are quite poor, I whispered, feeling utterly humiliated. The air hung heavy for a moment. I lowered my head, wishing for a fissure in the ground to swallow me whole. You merely lack practice, he finally spoke, evidently attempting to provide an excuse to shield my shame. I observed that your posture and the force behind your shot need refinement. As he spoke, he approached, wrapping his arms around me from behind. A rush of warmth surged to my head, my heart racing, yet I dared not move, my face aflame. I shall teach you how to aim and exert the maximum force. His cheek nearly brushed against mine, his soft voice whispering in my ear, accompanied by the refreshing scent of his skin mingling with the warmth that seemed to seep through my clothing into my very pores. I silently lamented. Such an intimate proximity only hindered my aim further. Oblivious to my distress, he continued to instruct, his long fingers naturally resting upon my hand. I felt as though I had been struck by lightning, my mind blank, palms sweating, struggling to even hold the bow correctly. Somehow, I drew the bow and released the arrow, most likely propelled by his guidance. It flew like a shooting star, striking the center of the target with precision. Well done. He finally released me, offering a word of praise. As I stepped away from his embrace, the absence of his warmth left me feeling a chill. I then realized that my shirt, dampened with sweat, clung to my skin, sending shivers down my spine. Emerging from the royal residence, both my elder brother and I felt rather dispirited. My own despondency stemmed from my embarrassment during archery practice, compounded by the lingering warmth of the Chi prince's embrace as he instructed me for an extended duration. I fervently endeavored to convince myself that his intentions were purely pedagogical. However, the sensation of his hand gently clasping mine left me flushed with heat. I shook my head to dispel the foggy thoughts swirling in my mind. After all, the Chi prince is the uncle of the crown prince, which indirectly makes him my uncle as well. An elder I ought not to entertain frivolous thoughts about. My brother, unusually solemn, remained silent. I initially assumed his demeanor was due to his pride being bruised after losing to the Chi Prince, for he has always been rather arrogant. What is your relationship with His Highness the Chi Prince? He suddenly inquired, hesitating as if struggling to find the right words. Ultimately, he blurted out. His Highness is the uncle of the Crown Prince, and since Chaoshi is to marry the Crown Prince, His Highness is also, in a sense, our uncle. For once, my normally dull wits began to grasp the implications. Brother, why do you speak of this? I queried. It is because I am concerned for you. He replied, his gaze shifting. Is it that you have seen His Highness instructing me in archery? Understanding dawned on me, and I lowered my eyes, feeling slightly guilty. Does you harbor feelings for His Highness the Chi Prince? My brother asked directly. I found myself at a loss for words, after all. How could any girl not admire someone as exceptional as he? Yet, I felt an aversion as well, having heard whispers of his numerous concubines. What I longed for was a singular, lifelong companionship. Chapter 5: The Proposal. A few tranquil days passed. I became more diligent, rising early each morning to practice archery. Following the teachings of Lord Chi, I occasionally managed to hit the bullseye. In the afternoons, I visited my mother to learn needlework. My embroidery skills were far worse than my archery, as it took me nearly half a day to stitch a single small flower, and my needlework was stiff and untidy. Each time my mother beheld my creations, she would sigh in dismay. I could only imagine her deep frustration, as a remarkably intelligent woman, proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and poetry. How could she have given birth to such a clumsy daughter? The weather suddenly turned cold. I nestled in bed. The charcoal fire in the flower-patterned incense burner crackling warmly, making it exceedingly difficult to rise. Outside, the wind howled, further solidifying my resolve to remain under the covers. Thinking perhaps I would practice archery when the weather improved tomorrow. Miss. Lingxi rushed in, her cheeks flushed from the cold, a light frost dusting her hair, which emitted cool vapor upon melting, evidencing the harshness of the weather. I want to be practicing archery today, I mumbled lazily, thinking that perhaps third brother had sent her to rouse me. Miss, the second young master has returned, Lingxi exclaimed, her face alight with joy. Second brother is back? I felt a surge of surprise and delight, quickly emerging from my cocoon of blankets. Lingxi hurriedly fetched a shoe brocade cloak for me to wear. Miss, don't catch a chill. I hastily donned my clothes and dashed to the front, arriving just at the threshold of the parlor, where the sounds of laughter and lively chatter emanated. Second brother seemed to be recounting something amusing, eliciting continuous laughter from everyone present, though he appeared darker and leaner. Bearing the marks of travel, he still exuded an effortless charm in his comfortable sapphire blue loungewear, adorned with a blue and silver cloud-patterned headband. His features were bright and spirited. Second brother, what story are you telling? Why did you not wait for me? I pouted, feigning dissatisfaction. Are you still in bed? Second brother teased, his crescent moon smile brimming with affection. What exactly were you saying just now? I quickly shifted the topic, running over to cling to his arm in a playful manner. He just told a story about a lazy girl. Third brother chuckled, his teasing provoking me to stomp my foot in mock anger, pouting in indignation. Where? Your brother shared some amusing tales from his journey, second sister-in-law interjected with a serene smile, diffusing the situation. Second sister-in-law resembled a reflection of our mother, born into a scholarly family. She was graceful and poised, possessing both beauty and talent, embodying gentleness and virtue. Where? Have you made any progress in your archery? My father, seated at the head of the table, inquired. Unlike his usual stern demeanor, he wore a smile, clearly relieved by second brother's safe return. I suppose I've improved a little, I stammered in response. Suppose? Father frowned slightly, about to inquire further, when the steward hurried in to announce, Master, Lord Lu from the Chi Wang mansion has arrived. Upon hearing the mention of the Chi Wang mansion, my heart inexplicably raced, accompanied by an uneasy premonition. Second brother had promised to take me to the tea house that afternoon to listen to some tunes, which filled me with joy. In days gone by, I often accompanied my elder brother on excursions, indulging in melodious tunes, listening to captivating stories, and watching street performers engage in swordplay and various arts, all while mingling with the bustling crowds. Occasionally, my brother, feeling the urge to showcase his own skills, would enter the fray to challenge the entertainers, his remarkable prowess frequently earning thunderous applause. However, as my brother ascended the ranks of officialdom and his duties multiplied, he could no longer spare the time for our joyful outings. I found myself gleefully contemplating the afternoon's itinerary. After enjoying some music, I would visit the renowned pastry shop in the capital, and then leisurely stroll through the market, where I delighted in the myriad of trinkets sold by the street vendors. Just as I was immersed in these cheerful musings, I remained oblivious to the impending developments regarding my marriage. The visit from Lord Liu of the Chi Wangfu bore news that the Chi Wang wished to take me as his consort. This unexpected proposal shattered the joyful anticipation of my brother's return. A pall of silence and shock descended upon our home, each member rendered speechless. At that moment, I could not comprehend the fear and trepidation reflected in their faces. I merely assumed that my betrothal to the Chi Wang was somewhat morally questionable. Hence my father's countenance dark as storm clouds, my mother pale and sorrowful, and my brothers restless. Only my grandmother remained composed, like an ancient tree weathered by countless storms, deeply rooted and unshakable. You cannot marry His Highness the Chi Wang. My third brother clenched his fists, the first to voice his dissent, deeming it incestuous. My grandmother lifted her heavy eyelids slightly, her once vibrant eyes now clouded, yet a spark of clarity emerged within. You shares no blood relation with the Chi Wang, thus. How can this be termed incest? Yet, my brother persisted, but if Chao Shi marries the crown prince, how will it be perceived if Yue weds the Chi Wang? The courtiers will surely have much to say. His implication was evident. A sister marrying her nephew and a younger sister marrying her uncle would undoubtedly breach ethical boundaries. Furthermore, the Chi Wang was known to have numerous concubines, and my innocent Yue would be ill-equipped to navigate such complexities. My grandmother's face trembled slightly as her aged voice conveyed both sorrow and resignation. Can you fathom the consequences of rejecting the Chi Wang? He is not a man devoid of reason. If Yue does not wish to marry him, he would likely not force the issue. My brother remained resolute. Even my usually silent elder brother expressed his concerns, suggesting Yue is indeed ill-suited for such a convoluted environment. The eldest son of Lin Shangshu, Lin Moyan, possesses both virtue and grace. Perhaps it would be wise to betroth Yue to him, which would also appease the Chi Wang. Yet, my grandmother refrained from giving a definitive answer. That evening, hail began to fall, striking the window panes with a cacophony. Sleep eluded me, so I summoned Lingxi. Feeling overwhelmed by such substantial distress for the first time. Lingxi, are you aware that His Highness the Chi Wang has sent someone to propose? I sat at the table, resting my chin on my hand, gazing at the flickering red candle, my thoughts a tangled mess. Lingxi chuckled softly. Everyone in the manor knows that His Highness the Chi Wang wishes to marry our young lady. Congratulations, miss. You are to become a princess. Yet, I felt a cloud of gloom settle over me. Do you think I should marry him? Lingxi, sensing my discontent, inquired with astonishment, Miss. Do you not wish to marry His Highness the Chi Wang? I am uncertain. My heart is in turmoil. The illustrious Prince Chi is renowned throughout the capital, not only for his striking appearance but also for his formidable martial prowess and exceptional talents. It is said that he is well versed in music, skilled in painting, and possesses exquisite calligraphy. A young lady marrying such an outstanding gentleman should indeed feel elated. Lingxi's effusive praise echoes this sentiment. Indeed, his identity, status, looks, and talents are beyond reproach. Yet, he is exceedingly perfect. I feel an overwhelming pressure, unable to comprehend why he would choose to wed someone as inadequate as myself when there are so many accomplished and beautiful noble women. Lingxi. I fear I am unworthy of him. I confided my concerns to Lingxi. Her eyes widened in astonishment. How could a lady more beautiful than the celestial Chang'e possibly be deemed unworthy of Prince Chi? The prince's choice to marry you speaks volumes of his discernment. He could find no woman more beautiful than you in this world. Ling Xi's exaggerated flattery left me blushing, yet somehow it instilled a flicker of confidence within me. Chapter 6 Engagement. This morning, a thick layer of frost blanketed the ground. I shivered as I wrapped myself tightly in my snowfox fur cloak. This winter had arrived particularly early. Traversing through 2 courtyards, I reached my grandmother's residence. In the courtyard, a lotus pond lay covered in a delicate frost, its surface frozen over the withered lotus stalks. An ancient plum tree stood, its branches stretching towards the whispering cold wind. A maid lifted the heavy brocade curtain. And as I entered, the warm air from the gilded phoenix incense burner immediately dispelled the chill. My grandmother was in the inner room's Buddhist hall, chanting prayers. I dared not disturb her and waited idly in the outer chamber. My grandmother abhorred extravagance, thus the interior was simply furnished, giving it a somewhat desolate feel. She cherished tranquility, and the servants dared not make a sound, only the rhythmic chanting and the monotonous beat of the wooden fish could be heard. My grandmother must have summoned me concerning the proposal from the Prince of Chi. Both my elder and younger brothers were unwilling for me to marry him. And I suspected my parents shared their sentiments, particularly my mother, who had shed many tears. Yet, the decision ultimately rested with my grandmother. Whether I wed the Prince of Chi was entirely in her hands. The sounds of the wooden fish and chanting ceased. And 2 maids assisted my grandmother out of the Buddhist hall. I hurried over to support her, taking the place of the maid as she settled onto the brocade couch. "Where have you eaten yet?" my grandmother inquired lovingly. I nestled against her and playfully shook my head, having come directly to see her upon waking without eating breakfast. "Grandmother, I wish to have osmanthus cake." "Go fetch some osmanthus cake for the young lady," my grandmother instructed. Afterward, she gently stroked my hair and earnestly reminded me. When you marry into the Prince of Chi's household, you will become the princess, and you must assist the prince in managing the domestic affairs. Life in the royal residence is not as unrestrained as at home. You can no longer act like a child." Her words indicated her decision to wed me to the Prince of Chi. Yet, an unexpected fear gripped me regarding the future. Deep down, I harbored some affection for the prince, I even dreamt of him once. However, the thought of his numerous concubines diminished my eagerness to marry him. "Grandmother, I fear I may not fulfill the role of a princess well." My grandmother comfortingly patted my back, saying, "Do not be afraid, Remember my words, you are the legitimate princess, and no one can undermine your status. Be gentle and considerate to the prince, and never compete with those concubines. It will only lead to disgrace. Always remain calm and think carefully." With the engagement settled, the lavish betrothal gifts from the prince's residence filled the room. At dusk, my elder sister sent me a congratulatory gift, a splendid set of gold jewelry adorned with rubies. I recalled that this exquisite set had been worn by her on her wedding day, accompanied by a note inscribed with a poem, "May we drink and grow old together. With a chin and a sea in harmony, may all be well." Marrying was indeed a cumbersome affair, with various formalities dragging on for half a month. This was hastened by the prince's need to return to his fief, shortening the wedding preparations. During this betrothal period, I nearly succumbed to illness from the confinement and thus implored my second brother to take me out for some fresh air. "Your engagement has been settled. You can no longer roam about carelessly as before," my brother shook his head. Yet I persevered, pleading repeatedly while wiping away my tears. My second brother, who had always been tender-hearted towards me, softened upon witnessing my sorrowful state. However, he stipulated that I could not be away for too long and must return home before dusk. My heart ached at the thought of missing out on the delightful street food at the night market. Merely being engaged meant I could not venture out. Should I marry Prince Chi, I might find myself confined within the royal palace, deprived of sunlight for the rest of my life. The more I pondered, The more dismal my thoughts became, and with tears brimming in my eyes, I implored, "Second brother, can I still call off the engagement?" My brother was taken aback by my peculiar musings. While common folk might rescind an engagement, doing so with a prince was a grave offense. "You are. Do not entertain such fanciful thoughts," he gently reassured me, reminding me that ultimately, a girl must marry, bear children, and manage a household. Even if I did not wed Prince Chi, I would still marry into a prestigious family. I could not retain a childish mindset forever. My brother took me to a tea house to listen to some melodies, and then to my favorite pastry shop, where he bought an abundance of delectable treats. "You are. Shall we go to the bridge to watch the street performers?" he suggested, noticing my diminished excitement. Despite the chilly weather, the bridge was bustling with activity, thronged with people. Street performers showcasing acrobatics and monkey tricks drew large crowds, punctuated by bursts of applause and hearty laughter. My spirits lifted considerably upon seeing the throngs of onlookers cheering for the performers. As I squeezed into the crowd, I spotted a robust man, formidable in appearance. Practicing his swordplay with precision, the glimmer of the blade danced ominously, sending chills through the air. My brother nodded in approval, exclaiming, "Impressive skills." After a while, the performer sheathed his sword, his complexion unruffled, then called out in a booming voice, "I have just arrived in this esteemed place to visit a friend. But he has since relocated, and I find myself without funds. I humbly request assistance from the good people here. Those with means, please contribute, and those without, lend me your company." His delivery was somewhat clumsy, lacking the smoothness customary among street performers. A voice emerged from the crowd, mocking, "It's dull to watch just one person, two should spar for true excitement." The performer's face flashed with embarrassment as he clasped his hands in a bow, asking, "Who among you dares to spar with me?" Not a single soul dared to step forward. His prowess was intimidating. Seeing the silence, the performer prepared to solicit funds once again. "Allow me to demonstrate." My brother, ignited by youthful bravado, leaped into the arena. The man's swordsmanship was indeed formidable. I had been mesmerized moments ago, and now, as my brother engaged in combat with him, my heart raced with trepidation. "You are," a familiar voice called out beside me. I was on tiptoe, straining to catch a glimpse of the fierce duel between my brother and the performer. Turning at the sound, I was pleasantly surprised to see a familiar face, Lin Emoyen, the eldest son of the Lin family. "Brother Lin," I exclaimed, both surprised and delighted. The Lin family had long-standing ties with our Chu family, and my sister and I often accompanied my brother to the Lin residence for visits. The second brother and Lin Moya are inseparable friends. Lin Moya, lacking in martial prowess, possesses instead a remarkable literary talent, embodying the grace and elegance of a refined gentleman, which has long captivated my sister's admiration. The second brother, however, excels in martial skills. After observing the contest for a while, Lin Moya expressed his admiration. "Brother Lin, do you think my brother can prevail against him? I am somewhat apprehensive. It is not a life and death struggle. There is no need for you to worry, you are." Lin Moya replied with a steady smile. I felt reassured. Lin Moya exuded a presence as steadfast as a mountain, capable of calming the most troubled hearts. Chapter 7, Marriage. I followed Lin Emoyen, maneuvering through the throngs of people, uncertain of what he wished to convey. His slender figure, clad in a stone-blue robe, stood tall and upright, embodying the refined elegance and grace akin to that of orchids and bamboo. In truth, my grandmother once intended to betroth my elder sister to him. Yet fate intervened, as she was instead promised to the crown prince by the emperor. Subsequently, it appeared that my grandmother harbored intentions of uniting me with him. But I found myself courted by the Prince of Chi instead. My grandmother yearned for a serene and prosperous life for both my sister and me, yet destiny proved unyielding, thrusting us into the frigid heights of fate. "You are to wed His Highness the Prince of Chi." "I possess no lavish gifts," he said, retrieving a delicate brocade box from his sleeve. "On that day, I chanced upon this pendant in the marketplace and purchased it for you." Whereas I accepted the brocade box and opened it, I beheld an exquisite and intricate white jade ruby pendant resting upon deep blue satin, its luster warm and radiant. May your future days be filled with peace and prosperity. His voice was gentle, yet tinged with a hint of melancholy, as a soft sorrow flickered in his clear, bright eyes. That night, I was beset by a torrent of chaotic dreams. I found myself joyfully playing with my elder brother and sister in my childhood, only to then witness my brothers valiantly fighting on the battlefield. I also dreamt of the Prince of Chi, who taught me archery, gently embracing me. The ethereal fragrance enveloping my skin in the days leading up to the wedding. I practiced embroidery diligently, yet my skills seemed to regress rather than improve. My mother, in her worry, shook her head, fretting that my lack of talents would hinder my ability to win the prince's affections. From the distant border, my elder brother sent generous gifts, a testament to his enduring affection for me. I pondered when, in this lifetime, we might reunite. The day of the wedding dawned bright and splendid. The sky was an azure expanse, unmarred by clouds, and the sun shone brilliantly. The prince's marriage stirred the capital into a frenzy. A red carpet stretched endlessly before me, while trees were adorned with flowing red silk draperies, fluttering in the breeze like clouds of crimson. Amidst the melodious sounds of drums and flutes, a procession of elegantly dressed maidens, bearing grand red lanterns emblazoned with golden characters of joy, scattered rose petals along the path, their skirts billowing like clouds in the cascading floral rain, gliding as if unbound by the earth. Following behind was a magnificent red bridal palanquin, crowned with a lavish silk canopy, a large pearl embedded at its peak. Dazzling and resplendent, its corners adorned with gold and jade, cascading crimson crystal tassels that shimmered with every movement. The streets thrummed with life, throngs of people eagerly craning their necks to witness this grand royal wedding. The prince himself arrived to escort me, donned in an opulent red wedding attire, his waist cinched with a matching belt inlaid with rubies. His thick, lustrous hair was styled into an elaborate updo, crowned with a golden tassel ornament. Delicate golden tassels cascading down his shoulders, enhancing the striking beauty of his flawless visage, making him appear utterly exquisite. In that moment, the bustling crowd fell silent, their gazes riveted upon him. He possessed an elegance and beauty transcending the mortal realm, exuding an innate regal grace, resplendent and unattainable. After a series of elaborate marriage rites, I was welcomed into the bridal palanquin. Seated upright in the palanquin, the intricately embroidered phoenix adorning my resplendent red wedding gown felt both heavy and cumbersome. The pure gold phoenix crown, adorned with luminous pearls and gemstones, weighed heavily upon my head, while the crystal tassels swayed gently before my eyes, shimmering with each jolt of the carriage. At that moment, I sensed that I was no longer the carefree little girl, cherished and pampered by my family. As I stepped out of the general's residence, my mother wept, her face concealed in sorrow, and my grandmother's tears flowed freely. I recalled my elder sister's wedding, which had brought a wave of melancholy throughout the household, causing me to weep for days. Little did I expect that in such a short span, I too would become a wife, unable to return home as my sister had. In the bridal chamber, the dragon and phoenix candles flickered brightly, and as the night deepened, an enveloping tranquility settled within the room, the subtle fragrance of the burning incense wafting through the air. I sat upright at the edge of the bed, but after sitting for too long, my back began to feel numb and stiff. Shifting slightly, I noticed my legs felt similarly constrained, and an unsettling impatience brewed within me. Why had he not yet arrived? Yet, amidst this impatience, I felt a twinge of anxiety at his impending arrival. Recalling the advice imparted by the matrons on how to please the prince, how to captivate him, to be less reserved, to exhibit charm in the intimate space of our marriage, so that he would be unable to resist me, thus winning his heart. My cheeks flushed with heat. How could I possibly carry out those strategies? Lost in my thoughts, weariness overtook me. Today had been exhausting, filled with countless rituals and the oppressive weight of my jewel-encrusted gown and crown. Gradually, my eyelids grew heavy, and I succumbed to slumber. On my wedding night, I had fallen asleep, and comfortably so, on the intricately carved rosewood bed draped in scarlet satin. I slept soundly through the night, only to awaken when the sun had risen high in the sky. Lingxi. As I groggily opened my eyes, I momentarily mistook my surroundings for my own chamber. Has the princess awakened? A foreign voice jolted my mind into clarity. I quickly realized I was in the residence of the Prince of Qi. Sitting up abruptly, I discovered that my wedding gown had been removed, leaving me in only a thin undergarment. I hastily pulled the quilt around me for modesty. My mind was a chaotic while grappling with the events of the previous night. Had I truly not consummated the marriage with the Prince of Qi? Of course not, for I had fallen asleep. The maidservant is here to assist the princess with her attire. The speaker was a young maid, perhaps in her 20s, clad in a soft yellow dress of average height, with fair skin and a gentle, oval face exuding a calm demeanor. Where is the prince? I mustered the courage to inquire. The prince has gone to the palace. You were supposed to accompany him, but you were sleeping so soundly that he instructed us not to disturb you, the maid replied with a knowing smile, her expression suggesting she understood the reason for my refusal to rise. Yet, how could she fathom that my wedding night had been utterly dismal? I suddenly recalled that my wedding attire must have been removed by him, a warmth creeping to my cheeks as confusion filled my heart. Why had he not awakened me? Upon further reflection, perhaps this is for the best, for I find myself somewhat apprehensive about such matters. My mind, restless and troubled, was lost in thought when the yellow-clad maid, noticing my peculiar demeanor, inquired with concern, "Your Highness, do you have any commands?" "None," I quickly shook my head. Then asked the maid, "What is your name?" "Servant is called Lon Jin, at the behest of the prince to attend to your highness," the yellow-clad maid replied respectfully. "Where is Lingxi?" Before I could finish my question, Lingxi entered, accompanied by a petite young maid dressed in green. She was delicate and charming, with bright eyes and a lively expression. The two of them presented a sumptuous breakfast, which included exquisite pastries and candied fruits. "The prince knows that you have a fondness for sweet treats, and has specially instructed the kitchen to prepare these for you. Do give them a try," the young maid, named Qingping, said with a bright smile. "How does he know of my penchant for sweet delicacies? And especially my favorite, the sugar-glazed osmanthus cake." I picked up a piece, savoring its delicate sweetness as it melted in my mouth, yet it still paled in comparison to the osmanthus cake made at home. Chapter 8. Madame Jiang. In the afternoon, Lon Jin came to report, "Your Highness, Madame Jiang has come to pay her respects. The Prince Qi had once married the princess, but she passed away due to illness within 2 years, after which the prince never took another consort. Before my marriage to the royal household, the highest-ranking individuals were the 2 concubines of Prince Qi, with Madame Jiang being one of them. According to Lon Jin, Madame Jiang had come to visit in the morning, but upon learning that I was still asleep, she departed and returned again, only to find me still resting. Hence, she chose to come back in the afternoon. A fragrant waft of floral perfume announced her arrival as a graceful lady glided in. She possessed a slender figure, adorned in an elegant silver-grey embroidered skirt, complemented by a silver fox fur cloak. Her face resembled a polished silver plate, with delicately arched brows and exquisitely refined features that exuded charm. Her dark tresses were elegantly arranged, with a golden flower hairpin nestled in her coif, from which water droplet-like crystal tassels swayed gently. The softness in her gaze was enchanting, evoking a sense of tenderness. "Your Highness, I pay my respects," she said, her slight bow accentuating her delicate waist, her voice soft and gentle, mirroring her graceful demeanor. "Please rise." I found myself somewhat unaccustomed to such deep reverence in greetings. At that moment, Lon Jin brought forth tea, reminding me that Madame Jiang was still standing. I hastily offered her a seat. "Please, do sit." "Thank you, Your Highness." Madame Jiang gracefully settled down, a gentle smile blooming on her delicate features. "I currently oversee some domestic affairs regarding provisions and clothing. Should Your Highness require anything, please do not hesitate to command me." "Thank you." I felt a genuine fondness for this humble and respectful Madame Jiang. "I have also brought a small token for Your Highness," she continued, producing a beautifully crafted blue enamel jewelry box adorned with pearls and jade. The mere value of this box was considerable. Lan Jin promptly received it and presented it to me. I have always had a penchant for exquisite trinkets, and I found myself captivated, playing with it for a moment. Upon opening the lid, a fragrant aroma wafted forth, revealing a delicate, peach blossom-hued cream that shimmered subtly like dew. Your skin, already resplendent as jade and blooming like peach blossoms, will only enhance in beauty with this blush. The prince shall undoubtedly admire you even more, Madame Jiang said, her eyes twinkling with warmth as she praised both me and her creation. I sincerely cherished the blush box and understood the importance of reciprocity in gifts. So I requested Ling Shi to fetch a gold phoenix hairpin as a return gift. Madame Jiang expressed her gratitude eagerly, appearing quite pleased with the ornate hairpin, which featured gemstones embedded in its design. Time flew by swiftly, and after Madame Jiang departed, dusk settled in. The sky filled with clouds, and a breeze picked up, hinting at impending snow. Lan Jin lit the lamps, while Ling Shi fanned the flames to a brighter glow. I found myself idly waiting for the prince. The bridal chamber was several times larger than my bedroom at home, comprising 3 rooms both inside and out. Majestic carved doors were draped with red silk curtains, swaying gracefully. On either side, 2 floor lamps stood, their candlelight flickering, casting a warm and radiant glow. The ground is adorned with a soft red carpet that leads directly into the inner chamber. To the right, a grand, intricately carved wooden window reveals a cold, deep night, with shadows of swaying trees. In front of the window stands an antique table, set with ink, brushes, paper, and inkstone. Beside the table is a staggered bookshelf, neatly arranged with books and an array of exquisite jade artifacts. Nearby, a Wangwali wood piano table holds an ancient guqin, while a gilded incense burner in the shape of a pagoda emits a sweet fragrance that is intoxicating. On the left side, a beautifully crafted dressing table, a carved flower stand, and a coat rack are placed next to a partition draped with red gauze curtains. The atmosphere is both grand and elegant. Feeling somewhat bored, I sit before the guqin, attempting to play a tune. I pluck the strings a few times, but the melody fails to come together. I remember how my elder sister played, her music flowing like clouds and water, melodious and enchanting. In contrast, I am unable to produce a complete piece. Thus, my mother's concerns are not unfounded. The Lady Jiang, who visited in the afternoon, is already a paragon of beauty and grace. And I can only imagine how many more captivating concubines the Chiwang might have. Moreover, the Chiwang possesses a face that attracts admiration from all quarters, making it evident that my future marital life may not be filled with joy. That evening, the Chiwang did not come, as he had gone to visit another concubine, Lady Li. I learned of this the following day when Lady Jiang returned, bringing with her some delicacies she had prepared, which were truly delightful, sweeter and more fragrant than my favorite pastries from Jixiangzai. She also shared with me a piece of news that incited her righteous indignation. The Chiwang had intended to visit me that very night, but was unexpectedly intercepted by Lady Li. Your Highness, that Li Qingshun is utterly outrageous. You and the Wang are newlywed, and yet she resorts to her beguiling tactics. Lady Jiang exclaimed, her brows furrowed, losing the refined demeanor she had displayed the day before. My grandmother was correct, the appearance of jealousy is indeed unbecoming. Relying on her 2 general brothers, who are close confidants of the Wang, Lady Li presumes to dominate him. Yet, even if the Wang places his trust in the Li family, they are mere servants, in stark contrast to the noble lineage of the princess. Lady Jiang expressed her disdain, her frustration seemingly more about her own grievances than my plight, revealing that she has faced considerable vexation from Lady Li. Of course, I too felt a pang of jealousy. Was it possible that I had fallen asleep on our wedding night, inciting the Wang's ire, which led him to seek company elsewhere? If that were the case, such pettiness would be unbecoming of him. Furthermore, as a concubine, to neglect visiting the princess is indeed a blatant disregard for her status. Lady Jiang continued to fume, her teeth clenched, insisting that the princess should assert her authority and teach that insolent maid a lesson. Teach her a lesson. I was somewhat bewildered. After all, she merely employed a few tricks to entice the Wang, and it takes two to engage in such affairs. If I were to reprimand the Wang for every dalliance, how could I possibly manage? With so many concubines, it would be an impossible task. You do not understand that Li Qingshun is insufferably arrogant. If the princess does not instill some respect in her, she will never regard you with the esteem you deserve. Lady Jiang continued to whisper fervently in my ear. I found myself somewhat fatigued by the conversation, and feeling too hesitant to issue a dismissal, I decided to shift the topic. Sister Jiang's pastries are absolutely delightful. I have a particular fondness for them. If the princess enjoys them, I shall prepare some more, Lady Jiang joyfully responded. I also have a small gift for the little princess, I said as I gestured towards Lingxi. Immediately, Lingxi turned and ventured into the inner chamber, returning shortly with an exquisite brocade box, which she presented to Lady Jiang. Sister, I hope you like it, I said with a smile. Inside lay a long life lock crafted from exceptionally fine jade, intricately carved with auspicious clouds. My dowry when I married was lavish, filled with an abundance of jewels and ornaments. And I recalled my grandmother's teachings that one must not neglect the social niceties within the confines of the royal residence. Lady Jiang was indeed taken by surprise, expressing her gratitude repeatedly. My intentions were not to curry favor but stemmed from genuine affection. Lady Jiang had treated me kindly, and I felt it only right to reciprocate. Little did I know that, in the long years to come, sincerity would prove to be the most perilous of virtues. Chapter 9, Malin on the third night. King Qi once again visited Lady Li. Even Lon Jin could hardly bear to watch, perplexed by my calm demeanor. Your Highness, shall I summon His Majesty? She suggested. Why should we summon him? I queried, baffled. He must have a fondness for Lady Li, while my acquaintance with him is merely superficial. I unwittingly became his consort. And it is only natural for him to seek companionship with someone he genuinely adores. As for me, I cannot deny a tinge of discomfort. For my affection for him likely surpasses his feelings for me. Nevertheless, I shall not succumb to the folly of jealousy. My grandmother has repeatedly advised me against competing with concubines, emphasizing that, as the legitimate wife, I must embody the grace of a primary consort. Though I detest feigning magnanimity in matters of the heart, I must heed my grandmother's wisdom. Her guidance is infallible. I heard from Qingping that the plum blossoms in the royal garden are particularly beautiful this season. Let us go admire the plum blossoms, I suggested. Lon Jin, momentarily taken aback, looked at me in astonishment, as if to say, are the blossoms truly more significant than His Majesty? The plum grove was not far from our residence. We traversed through a moon gate and along a cobblestone path intertwined with snow-laden trees, turning a few corners until we reached a clearing where the plum blossoms bloomed vibrantly against the pure white snow. What exquisite plum blossoms! Exclaimed Lingxi. Look over there. A cluster of white plum blossoms. No girl can resist the allure of flowers, especially ones so resplendent. Your Highness, may I gather a few branches of plum blossoms to arrange in a vase? Qingping proposed. I nodded in agreement. Then recalled that the residence of Minister Lin also harbored a grove of plum trees, predominantly white ones. My elder sister had a particular fondness for white plums. And one winter, she and Lin Emoyen exchanged verses amidst the blossoms. Alas, I cannot recall any of their lines. But I vividly remember the way her cheeks flashed like rose petals, her eyes brimming with admiration and joy whenever she gazed at Lin Emoyen. I wandered through the grove of red plums before moving to the white ones. There were but a few white plum trees, scattered sparsely, with one venerable tree bearing an abundance of blossoms, pure and dazzling as snow and cloud. Lingxi, I find myself longing for the plum blossoms at Lin Gija's residence, I confessed melancholically. The winter before my sister wed the crown prince, the white plums in the minister's garden were breathtaking. My sister, second brother, Lin Gij, and I would revel in the blossoms, composing poetry, though I was incapable of crafting verses myself. I gathered numerous white plums to take home. arranging several branches in my grandmother's vase, which brought her great joy. As I reminisced about those cherished moments, I lamented, Lingxi. How wonderful it would be if I had not married King Qi. This winter, I could accompany second brother to Lin Gija's residence to gather plum blossoms, bringing them back to arrange in my grandmother's vase. I had been speaking at length, lost in my thoughts, when I noticed Lingxi's silence. Lingxi, why do you not respond? I turned around, only to find that I had not seen Lingxi. Instead, King Qi, clad in white, stood behind me. His handsome visage adorned with a bemused smile, a peculiar glint shimmering in his deep-set eyes. I exclaimed in shock, when did you arrive? The Qi Wang's lips curled slightly, a hint of amusement flickering in his eyes, just when the princess declared her reluctance to marry me. My mind went blank for a few seconds. How unfortunate I was to have uttered such words, only to have him overhear them. It seemed that in the princess's heart, I was worth less than a few plum blossoms. He stepped closer, his deep gaze sparkling with intensity. I ought to let you know my merits. Hearing him suddenly call me Yue stirred an inexplicable sense of intimacy within me, leaving me both flustered and somewhat delighted. In a daze, I involuntarily asked, what merits? The Qi Wang let out a light laugh, as if mocking my naivety, then leaned down, pressing his lips against mine. My mind buzzed, as if struck by lightning, leaving me in a void. By the time I regained my senses, he had pried my lips apart, capturing my tongue. A flicker of fear compelled me to push against his chest, yet his arms tightened around my waist, pulling me closer as if to meld my body with his. His kisses deepened, entirely claiming my tongue, his breath filling the space between us with a crisp freshness. Dazed and enraptured, I instinctively clung to his solid shoulders, my body responding in kind, as if on reflex. His breath grew heavier, and in my stupor, I sensed a change in the way he pressed against me. Suddenly, he released me, his chest heaving with breathlessness, his dark eyes still ablaze with desire. Does Yue now comprehend my merits? He inquired teasingly, catching his breath. I stood there bewildered, my body still weak, my legs trembling, my spirit seemingly adrift, yet to return. I hold great affection for Yue, but she is still quite young. Once she matures, I shall make her my true princess. A soft warmth flickered in his deep, cold eyes, his tone reminiscent of someone soothing a child. Much like how my 3 elder brothers often treated me. A wave of inexplicable disappointment washed over me. Did I truly resemble a child? Why did it seem that everyone perceived me as an eternal infant, even my future husband? During the ceremony when the Qi Wang's concubines paid their respects to the princess, I encountered Lady Li, whom Madame Jiang despised so vehemently. At last I understood why the Qi Wang was so enamored with her. She was not the epitome of breathtaking beauty, yet she exuded an irresistible charm. With graceful curves and a figure adorned in a fragrant pink gown embroidered with jade butterflies. Her ample bosom, softly concealed yet enticingly prominent, hinted at allure. Her skin was smooth and delicate, as if crafted from fine porcelain. Her makeup was vibrant, accentuating her alluring brows and captivating eyes. Her dainty nose and cherry-like lips were framed by a cascade of lustrous black hair styled in a peony updo, adorned with a resplendent butterfly-shaped hairpin encrusted with emeralds, shimmering brilliantly. Though somewhat gaudy, she was undeniably enchanting. Observing her, I began to comprehend. Perhaps the Qi Wang's remark about me needing to mature was a reflection of my slender frame, contrasting with the proud presence of Lady Li. That evening, the Qi Wang did not visit again, likely having gone to see Lady Li. Lingxi had neatly arranged the bedding and, noticing me lost in thought, assumed I was yearning for home. She comforted me, saying that I would soon be reunited with my family. However, her words inadvertently touched upon another concern of mine, the fact that 3 days had passed without a mention from Prince Qi regarding my return. Perhaps the entire royal household was preoccupied with preparations for their relocation to the fief, leaving him little time to consider such matters. He might have even forgotten about my return altogether. A sigh escaped my lips, and a wave of melancholy washed over me. "Miss, you!" Lingxi exclaimed, her face a mask of surprise. "What's the matter? Is there something on my face?" I asked, noticing her intense gaze fixed upon me. I instinctively wiped my cheeks, wondering if remnants of the cake I had eaten that evening were still lingering. Lingxi shook her head. "There is nothing on your face, Mississippi. It's just that you seem somewhat different than usual." "How so?" I inquired, perplexed. "I cannot quite articulate it. But perhaps it is the fact that I have never seen you appear so despondent." "Are you unhappy because the prince has not come?" Lingxi ventured, beginning to grasp my sentiments. "Lingxi, today I saw Lady Li, and her figure is so exquisite that it is no wonder Prince Chi is so enamored with her. Always visiting her." I lamented, my spirits dampened by Lady Li's alluring charm, which left me feeling rather insecure. "Are you feeling jealous, miss?" Lingxi teased with a smile. I hurriedly denied it. "I am not." "Your cheeks are flushed," she playfully remarked. Indeed. My thoughts were irresistibly drawn to Prince Chi. Was it because he had kissed me? Before that moment, I had never felt such an intense longing for him. His kiss seemed to have unlocked a mysterious door within my heart, revealing an enticing realm that could never again be closed. In the throes of nascent love, I found myself gradually succumbing to an all-consuming passion. Chapter 10. The contest for affection. Snow began to fall once more, and by morning, a thick blanket covered the ground. I had consumed only a bowl of bird's nest porridge. Lingxi, noticing my unusually small appetite, expressed her concern. "Miss, you only had a few pastries last night. And now you've eaten so little again this morning." "I lack an appetite. I do not wish to eat," I replied lethargically. "Miss, are you feeling unwell?" Lingxi inquired, sensing my distress. "I merely have a slight headache and feel a bit chilly," I said, sneezing as I spoke. "The princess has caught a cold." Lon Jin, who was attending to me, grew anxious. "I shall summon the physician." She hurriedly exited the inner chamber but nearly collided with someone entering. "Your Highness." I heard Lon Jin's startled voice, followed by the sound of footsteps as Prince Chi entered the room. At that moment, I felt increasingly weak, my nose began to tingle, and I sneezed several times. Prince Chi approached quickly, one arm wrapping around me while the other rested on my forehead. "The princess has a fever. Summon the physician at once," he instructed Lon Jin, who had entered behind him. Suddenly, I felt the illness wash over me. During breakfast, I had only felt slightly unwell. But soon I was beset by a throbbing headache, chills, and shivers, followed by a high fever. In a daze, I sensed fingers resting on my pulse. "How is the princess's condition?" Prince Chi's voice seemed to come from a great distance, yet it was eerily clear. I did not hear a response. Perhaps I was too weary, my eyelids heavy as if burdened by a great weight, and my mind gradually ceased to function until I finally lost consciousness. When I sought out my elder sister, I found her secretly wiping away tears. My heart ached for her, for I understood that her heart belonged solely to Lin Moen. She had prepared herself to become Mrs. Lin, only to be abruptly betrothed to the crown prince. If my sister were to marry the crown prince, she would ascend to the position of empress, basking in endless glory, while our family, the Chu clan, would rise into the ranks of nobility. Yet, my sister did not desire this. In her heart, no power or wealth could compare to Lin Moen. "Does you have feelings for brother Lin?" my sister queried. I quickly shook my head. How could I harbor affection for the man my sister adored? How could you not like brother Lin? He is kind-hearted and learned. If she marries him, she will surely find happiness. My sister's voice was gentle, her eyes shimmering with dreams. "Sister, I shall plead with grandmother to prevent your marriage to the crown prince, if it pleases you," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. My sister was meant to marry Lin Moyan and enjoy a tranquil life. Instead, the wicked emperor had torn them apart. My sister slowly shook her head, sighing softly. Grandmother would not dare defy the emperor's decree. To disobey the imperial edict is a grave sin that could lead to our family's ruin. She longed for Yue to find someone who would genuinely cherish her, advising, "Do not marry into the royal family. You are too innocent to contend with those wicked individuals." "Are there many wicked people in the palace?" I asked, filled with concern for my sister. What if she encounters someone malicious? My sister reassured me. I shall not fear those wicked souls, I have my own ways of dealing with them. I am aware that my sister is exceptionally intelligent and possesses remarkable martial skills. She is truly formidable. Anyone who dares to bully her will undoubtedly find themselves utterly defeated. Where? I hear someone calling my name. It seems to be either my second brother or my third brother. I wish to open my eyes, yet my eyelids remain heavy and unyielding. I feel an overwhelming heat. My body drenched in sweat, sticky and uncomfortable. However, someone gently wipes my forehead, cheeks, and neck. The perspiration saturates my skin, and my damp clothing is removed. I feel considerably better, the throbbing in my head has diminished, though it still feels heavy, and I drift back into a stupor. Time passes. And in a state of semi-consciousness, I sense an abundance of sweat once again. The fiery heat has subsided, and all discomfort has vanished. I can finally open my eyes. Where have you awakened? A soft inquiry reaches my ears, accompanied by a pair of enchanting black eyes before me. After a moment of stillness, my mind erupts in realization, oh heavens. I discover that I am entirely unclothed. In an instant, it feels as though all the blood has rushed to my face. And I hurriedly attempt to cover myself. What is the matter, Yue? He wears a gentle smile, appearing completely unfazed. My cheeks burn as if aflame. His question is clearly rhetorical. Do you feel better, Yue? He gently inquires once more. I bite my lip in silence, yet he draws closer. His breath warm and teasing against my ear and neck, sending shivers down my spine, raising goosebumps upon my skin. It dawns upon me that Yue is truly beautiful. His voice grows increasingly tender, accompanied by faint, labored breaths. I wish to retreat, but recalling my embarrassing predicament, I find myself gripping the quilt tightly, frozen in place. Unable to escape or remain still. I can hardly wait for Yue to grow up. The prince's breaths are heavy as his lips softly brush against my ear. Just then, a commotion erupts outside, an arrogant voice rings clear, "This lady has come to visit the princess, how dare you, lowly servant, obstruct me?" "I dare not," replied the maid. "The prince has commanded that no one disturb the princess during her convalescence." "It is Lon Jin." With a resounding slap, the sound reverberates. And Ling Shi hurriedly rushes into the inner chamber. "Mississippi." Her voice falters in her throat. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, I hastily pull the quilt around me. While Ling Shi promptly turns away, stuttering, "Prince. Prince. Lady Li. Lady Li." The prince straightens his posture, his demeanor turning cold. His face set in a frosty expression. I understand now. The prince did not return, and Lady Li departed, evidently having come for the prince. Deliberately causing a scene outside, undoubtedly buoyed by her favored status. Lan Jin's face is swollen on one side. Lady Li's strike was no trifling matter. It is hard to reconcile her delicate beauty with such ferocity. "Princess," Lady Li's arrogance clearly indicates her disregard for you. Qingping expresses her indignation. Lan Jin quickly interjects, "The prince has already reprimanded her. What use is it to be neither painful nor itchy?" Lady Li relies on the prince's affection. Bullying others with impunity, and now even the princess is not spared from her tyranny. The prince is truly biased. Qingping's anger could not be contained. And she spoke her mind fervently. "Qingping, perhaps you should hold your tongue," Lan Jin exclaimed, her face etched with worry. She then turned to me earnestly, saying, "Princess, I am unscathed. It is common for a servant to be punished by her master. Please do not trouble yourself over such trivial matters." Seeing the tears glistening in Lan Jin's eyes and the swelling on half her face, I recalled the tales recounted by Madame Jiang about Lady Li's wanton bullying of the other concubines and her tyrannical behavior within the household. A sudden flame of indignation ignited within me. I forgot my grandmother's admonitions and foolishly engaged in a contest for favor with Lady Li, only to face the consequences of my actions. Chapter 11, Jealousy. 2 days later, the king of Chi came to see me. Clad in the purple robes reminiscent of our first encounter, he stood tall and handsome, exuding an air of nobility. When his cold, penetrating black gaze fell upon me, my heart involuntarily raced. "Is the moon not pleased?" he inquired softly, noticing my sulky demeanor. "Not at all," I retorted, petulantly maintaining my frown. He approached, took my hand, and with a gentle smile asked, "Who has caused the moon to be discontent?" "It is you," I snapped back, my irritation evident. Chapter 12, Return to the family. A few days later, the king of Chi unexpectedly sent word for me to return to my family the following day. This was indeed delightful news. After nearly half a month, he had finally remembered the customary visit. Had this been shortly after our wedding, I would have surely rejoiced with unrestrained elation, my heart brimming with joy. Yet, in the brief passage of time, the novel happiness that once graced my spirit had faded, leaving behind a semblance of solemnity that was reflected in my countenance as I adorned myself before the mirror. On the day of my return, the weather was splendid, reminiscent of the clear azure sky on my wedding day. The accumulated snow had transformed the path into a sheet of ice. There was no wind, yet the chill pierced through to the bone. The regal horseman of the royal residence advanced with grandeur. Chapter 13, First Love. He was the one who lifted me down from the carriage. I had insisted multiple times that I could walk on my own and did not require his assistance, yet he clutched me even tighter, as though he relished the sight of my embarrassment. Fortunately, it was nighttime, shielding us from the gaze of the masses. Though we still attracted the curious stares of some servants who had come to greet us, their eyes following us all the way back to the bedroom. He placed me gently onto the bed and exhibited no intention of departing. "My lord, I wish to rest," I managed to hint. He nodded, replying, "I, too, am somewhat fatigued," and to my astonishment, he began to remove his garments. Chapter 14, The provocation of Lady Li. In the early hours, the emperor passed away. The grandson, Shao Zhonwan, immediately ascended to the throne, becoming the new sovereign. As noon approached, Prince Chi returned from the palace. He did not come to see me, but went straight to his study, where he spent the afternoon with several civil and military officials. In the evening, he did not come to visit me either, but instead went to Lady Li's chambers. After a discussion with Lady Li's brother, a general, Prince Chi chose to spend the night in her quarters. I attempted to write a single character, but found myself unable to continue. Chapter 15, Love's Indulgence. Upon my return, I found that Prince Chi had unexpectedly arrived and was awaiting my presence. I deliberately maintained a distance, perhaps out of stubbornness, yet more so out of clarity. Witnessing him embrace Lady Li in the training grounds, I suddenly comprehended that his tender affections were not reserved solely for me. Yue has no affinity for archery. There is no need for her to force herself. His gaze fell upon my hands, which were reddened from the cold. I have always cherished archery. It was merely my previous penchant for play that led to a neglect of practice. I refrained from looking at him and responded curtly, "I still find it challenging to conceal my sorrow." Chapter 16, The concubine Li. I awakened once more to the sun already high in the sky. In the past, I would have certainly resisted rising, for my third brother often teased me as a lazy girl. Indeed, I have a penchant for lingering in bed. In the early days of my marriage to the Prince of Chi, I adhered to my grandmother's teachings and rose early for a few days. However, since we consummated our union, he has been relentless in his pursuits of pleasure, rendering me incapable of emerging from my slumber the following day. Yet, the prince has never expressed any concern regarding my languor, nor has he imposed any demands pertaining to the management of household affairs. I cannot shake the feeling that he, much like my three brothers, regards me as a cherished little girl at heart. Chapter 17, A familiar strategy. On the eve of my departure to the fief, my elder sister summoned me to the palace for a meeting. Her figure had grown noticeably heavy, likely due to the burdens of pregnancy, and her complexion appeared quite haggard. Despite her condition, she had prepared an exquisite array of pastries and confections for me. However, my appetite was not what it once was. and I could only manage a few bites before ceasing. These delicacies were of a novel style from the palace. Didn't the moon enjoy them? My sister's smile remained gentle. Yet it bore a hint of melancholy, as if she too was harboring unhappiness. I was soon to leave the capital, my heart heavy. Unable to eat. In truth, my sorrow stemmed not solely from. Chapter 18. The royal physician. Little Horn life unfolded in a monotonous manner as King Chi busied himself with state affairs. With the barbarian tribes troubling the borders, he focused on military organization, training troops, and preparing for battle. During this time, my elder brother visited me once. The king held him in high regard, and he was readying himself for the front lines to confront the invaders. However, my brother did not share the usual excitement of going to war. As the palace delivered the devastating news that my sister had given birth to a boy, only for him to perish before reaching his first month. Upon hearing this news, I was overwhelmed with sorrow and wept, my heart aching at the thought of my sister enduring such profound loneliness and despair within the palace. Chapter 19. A family letter. The king of Chi hosted a grand banquet to celebrate the full moon of his child. A gesture that underscored his profound regard for Lady Li, the mother of his offspring. Having borne 2 daughters, Lady Li finally experienced a moment of triumph. Basking in the adoration that surrounded her, unmatched in her glory. In stark contrast, concubine Li remained notably silent at the feast. The king, who had once cherished her, frequently visited her quarters. Now, with Lady Li having given birth to a son, it is evident that the future appears bleak for her and her child. I, too, find myself engulfed in sorrow, for I have received a letter from my family revealing that my mother has fallen ill, and her condition is steadily deteriorating. Chapter 20. An unexpected encounter. Upon visiting my mother, I found her eagerly awaiting my arrival. She was gravely ill. The loss of her grandchild had plunged my sister into despair, and this heavy burden had also taken a toll on my mother. Coupled with the distress of my father and second brother engaged in quelling the rebellion, my mother was consumed by worry day and night, leading to a deterioration of her health that left her bedridden. Lying on her sickbed, my mother appeared emaciated, and tears streamed down my face. "Where? Your mother dreamed of you just yesterday. Never did I imagine you would truly return," she wept, gently stroking my hair repeatedly. "How I long for you, my dear mother," I cried, leaning against her. Chapter 21. The bath. The royal bathing pool exudes unparalleled opulence. The grand and magnificent pool, crafted from exquisite white jade, nearly occupies the entirety of the hall. The water, crystal clear, reveals the intricately carved ornate patterns at the bottom of the jade basin. Surrounding the pool are exquisite bas-reliefs of mythical beasts, from which steaming hot water flows continuously from the mouths of golden dragons. Ethereal mist envelopes the pristine azure surface, resembling a celestial fog, releasing an extraordinary fragrance. Indeed, the emperor knows how to indulge. I mused silently, yet a sense of unease lingered within me. Chapter 22. Mid-autumn. I sat by the window, gazing blankly at the bright moon hanging in the vast sky. A waft of fragrant osmanthus drifted in with the night breeze, permeating the room in delicate threads, enhancing the solitude. "Your Highness, Lady Jiang has sent you bird's nest soup, you should partake." Lon Jin limped into the room. Her leg had been broken after my insistence on returning home to visit my mother. Upon the triumphant return of Prince Chi, he had not received my letter, as the messenger dispatched by the chief steward had fled and never returned. Enraged by my unauthorized return to the capital, Prince Chi imposed severe punishments on Lon Jin and Qing Ping, resulting in the tragic death of Qing Ping. Chapter 23. Shared fortunes and misfortunes. Lying in bed at night, I found it difficult to succumb to slumber. In the tranquil depths of the night, I faintly heard the melodious strains of silk and bamboo instruments. The banquet continued long past midnight. I was unaware of when I finally drifted into sleep, only to be ensnared by a series of bizarre dreams. The night was shrouded in darkness, lifeless and oppressive, with the colossal palace looming like a ferocious beast against the night sky. "Where?" His breath caressed my ear, a gentle laughter escaping his lips. "I had long harbored fondness for you." Terror seized my heart, and I desperately sought an escape. my spirit soaring beyond the confines of reality. Chapter 24 The Lifting of Confinement. The King of Chi has lifted my confinement and sent an abundance of exquisite jewelry as a gesture of goodwill. Lady Jeong was the first to visit, her face illuminated with joy. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the princess. I always believed that the prince harbored affection for you. It was inevitable that you would not endure suffering for long. I expressed my gratitude for Lady Jeong's profound friendship with a gentle tone. Why do you say such things? My lady. I feel unworthy of your praise. You know that I cannot compare to Lady Li in terms of favor. Nor can I speak much in the presence of the prince. Lady Jeong sighed with regret. I have also heard that Lady Li has caused you considerable distress. Chapter 25 Joy. The heavy snow has persisted for over 10 days, rendering the northern winter increasingly frigid and desolate. The king has yet to make an appearance. Nor has he visited any of his other concubines. I find myself restless, plagued by an ominous sense of foreboding, as if a storm is brewing. Perhaps it is due to my troubled thoughts that I have lost my appetite. Even the mere thought of fruit causes me to feel nauseous. Is the princess unwell? Lan Jin inquired, her concern palpable. I decided to summon Dr. Hon to examine the princess. I, too, have felt particularly fatigued in recent days. My heart heavy with thoughts of the king. Sleep eludes me at night, and I awaken each morning with a severe headache. Chapter 26 Fragrant milk. In the blink of an eye, a month has slipped by. The King of Chi has yet to return to the royal residence. And whispers of gossip have begun to circulate in secret within the estate. Some claim that the emperor has issued a decree revoking the 3 guards assigned to the prince. Others suggest that the prince has defied the decree, leading to a rift with the emperor. Even more alarming rumors have emerged, suggesting that the prince is preparing to march southward, ready for confrontation. In the afternoon, Lady Jeong came once more to invite me for a stroll in the garden. The princess has remained indoors, lying down, lest she become too weary. I offered to accompany her for a leisurely walk in the garden to soothe her mind. I, too, felt a sense of restlessness and unease, consumed by wild thoughts, particularly the unsettling rumor of impending war between the prince and the emperor. Chapter 27 Miscarriage. I lay in bed for 3 days, and the medicine prescribed by Dr. Hon proved remarkably effective, stabilizing the pregnancy after he checked my pulse once more. However, I must continue my bed rest. From his words, it seems I shall remain confined to my quarters until after the birth. In moments of vexation, I find myself longing for Prince Chi. The emperor has not issued an edict to remove Prince Chi from his princely duties, and amidst the turmoil of the northern front, he has been commanded to quell the rebellion. During the reign of the late emperor, Prince Chi engaged in relentless campaigns in the north, earning significant military accolades and commanding formidable forces, thus standing out among the 20-odd princes. It is said that the late emperor once contemplated bequeathing the throne to Prince Chi, but the courtiers opposed this notion. Chapter 28 No witnesses to death. Where, do not merely indulge in your meal, compose a poem inspired by the snow, urged my second brother with a teasing tone. At that moment, I harbored an intense dislike for him, fully aware that I possessed no words of wisdom to share. Yet he insisted on putting me in an embarrassing position before others. However, the snowy landscape outside was truly enchanting. The freshly fallen snow rendered the sky as a crystalline mirror, while a white plum tree, adorned with blossoms, reflected the azure sky and pristine snow, creating a scene of immaculate beauty. Such a poetic setting was indeed most suitable for reciting verses. My elder sister Lin Moyan had already crafted several delightful poems, and the plum blossom poem recited by my second brother Alia was imbued with a certain literary elegance. Chapter 29 Pure Love. In Jade. The King of Chi set aside all his official duties, cherishing a few tranquil days alongside me. He fed me, tenderly washed my feet, and at night he gently held me as we drifted into slumber, treating me as if I were a fragile glass doll, deserving of his utmost care. He appeared worn and weary, perhaps due to the heartache of losing our child, or possibly out of a sense of guilt for sparing the life of the one who took our child from us. When I return, I shall remain by Yue's side. I will surely make amends to Yue, he repeated, his voice filled with resolve. I remained silent. Unwilling to speak, uncertain of what to say, thus he refrained from punishing Li Fu. Chapter 30 A Pu Jing Temple. With the arrival of Snowball, my spirits lifted considerably. And I began to take leisurely strolls with it in the garden. Upon learning of my new feline companion, Mrs. Jiang graciously gifted me a beautiful string of bells, alleviating my fears of losing it. She smiled warmly. As the days passed, spring yielded to summer, and I gradually emerged from my sorrow. Through Mrs. Jiang, I gained a clearer understanding of the truth. She firmly believed that Lady Li had instigated Yan Er to switch the medicine. Yan Er's family had long been servants of the Li household, thus, she was particularly obedient to Li Qingshan. Mrs. Jiang possessed an intimate knowledge of her adversary's secrets, and Li Qingshan directed the internal affairs. Chapter 31 Concubine Zhang. The summer in the northern cold lands is fleeting. It does not linger in warmth for long before the chill returns. The snowball has grown rapidly, becoming large and plump in just over a month. Yet it retains the gentle and obedient demeanor of its youth. As the temperature drops, it nestles closer to me, reveling in my affection. Snowball delights in playing in the garden, where I once encountered Concubine Li. She appeared distant and aloof, offering me a cold salute from afar before leading her companion, Xiao Hong, down another path. I surmise that she harbors resentment towards me for my previous insincerity, as she has not visited since the day of the Qi prince's absence on her birthday. Jiangfu. Chapter 32 The steward, Xiao Liang, hurriedly came to see me. Having followed Prince Qi since childhood, he served as a household servant of the prince. Although he was a servant, those in the prince's residence held a certain status, particularly the powerful steward of the royal mansion. Years of attending to the prince had inevitably imbued him with an air of nobility, which manifested in his every gesture and demeanor, exuding an authoritative presence. "What are the lady's instructions?" he inquired, his demeanor consistently respectful towards me. "Are you aware of the serious illness afflicting young Master Ho of Concubine Zhang?" I asked, maintaining a stern expression. Xiao Liang. Chapter 33 A direct confrontation. Madame Li approached me with a fierce demeanor, clearly intent on seeking retribution. However, her complexion was not as radiant as it once was. She seemed to have withered like a flower deprived of the king's nourishing presence during his prolonged absence. I had heard that the princess had dismissed Steward San. She confronted me directly, her anger palpable, marking our first face-to-face encounter. Why must Madame Li be so hasty and agitated? Perhaps a cup of tea would be in order. At that moment, Coral presented the tea. I leisurely took a sip. My indifferent and slightly scornful demeanor only served to further infuriate Madame Li. Chapter 34 The concubines of Chao and Lu. I sat at the head of the table, observing the elegantly adorned concubines below, most of whom hailed from families of modest official lineage. Those of higher rank were eager to forge connections with the princes, while these lesser officials were equally eager, for marrying their daughters into royal families was akin to ascending to the pinnacle of glory. I instructed Lon Jin to prepare sweet pastries, fruits, and fragrant tea, reminiscent of a delightful tea gathering. The concubines were lively and cheerful, engaging in spirited conversation and laughter. Despite occasionally harboring ulterior motives and competing with one another, they retained a youthful exuberance and vivacity. My demeanor was approachable and gentle, free from any airs of superiority. Chapter 35 Disguised as a man. The protracted winter has once again descended upon us. News of the war has finally emerged. King Qi has repelled the invading forces, achieving a significant victory. However, the conflict is far from over. In a bid to eradicate the lingering threats at the borders, King Qi has mobilized his army for a vigorous pursuit, penetrating deep into enemy territory, heralding the onset of an even more intense and brutal decisive battle. As winter sets in, my sensitivity to the cold intensifies. The remedies prescribed by physician Chen seem to bear little fruit, and I fear my health has worsened. The newly appointed steward, Manager Chen, has personally delivered the finest silver frost charcoal from the Internal Affairs Bureau. He is a rotund man with a glossy, twirled mustache and a perpetually cheerful demeanor. Chapter 36 Simahon. Upon returning to the royal residence, I found Lon Jin in a state of anxious anticipation. Seeing us arrive, she finally exhaled a long sigh of relief. Lon Jin, do you like it? I presented her with the exquisite jade hairpin adorned with green lotus. This is too precious. I cannot accept such a gift, she replied, visibly overwhelmed. There is no need for such modesty. As the princess, I insist that you keep it. Thank you, Your Highness. You are exceedingly kind to me. Lon Jin's voice trembled with emotion. Her heartfelt gratitude stirred feelings of guilt within me. Her leg had been crippled because of my actions, and I had always harbored a sense of remorse. I contemplated. Chapter 37 An encounter with an old friend in a foreign land as summer faded into autumn. Lin Moyan finally wrote back to me. In her letter, she spoke gently, yet the words were laden with sorrow. She revealed that she had suffered 2 consecutive miscarriages. Her health had not been well, and despite her frail condition, she had attempted to conceive again. After one instance of bleeding, it nearly cost her life. I wept throughout the night, lamenting why she was so foolish, why she did not prioritize her health before seeking to bear children. My anger also turned towards Xiao Zhonwan. He was the one who had put her in this predicament, fully aware of her frail state yet still encouraging her to become pregnant. I worried for our mother. Knowing the anguish my sister had endured, how deeply it must have pained her and how great a blow it had been to her spirit. Chapter 38 Intoxication. I found myself inebriated, succumbing to tears in a most undignified manner. Initially, I wept for my sister, and then for myself. In a haze of blood memories, I confided to Lin Moyan about Prince Chi and his array of concubines. The alcohol had stirred the jealousy that lay buried deep within my heart. I could hardly discern what Lin Moyan was saying, but I accepted the handkerchief he offered. Faintly hearing him murmur, do not cry, wipe away your tears. Brother Lin, why are my sister and I so unfortunate? I have married a fickle prince. And my sister was meant to wed you, for she cherished you so dearly. Chapter 39 Moonlight. The king of Qi has achieved a resounding victory. And while the main forces of his triumphant army are still en route, he has chosen to return ahead with his personal guard. It is quite a coincidence that just as I stealthily slipped out of the royal residence, he made his return. I am at a loss as to how he discovered my absence, but that is of little consequence. What truly matters is my own conduct. Alas! What a mortifying predicament. Throughout the day, I found myself restless and devoid of spirit. Lon Jin presumed I was unwell once more, unaware that the more I pondered, the more I felt humiliated. I could scarcely contain my desire to find a secluded hole to hide in, wishing never to cross paths with the king of Qi again. Chapter 40 The Mid-Autumn Banquet. My heart felt increasingly constricted. As the daughter of a general, a paragon of nobility, I found myself entangled with the Prince of Qi in the floral hall. The honeyed moonlight illuminated my flawless, snow-like skin, casting a spell upon my heart, which drifted in a haze akin to the ambiguous glow of the moon. In the embrace of the prince, we breathed as one, enveloped by the tranquil night. The only vestige of clarity I clung to was the firm pressure of my teeth against my lips, stifling the surging tides within my throat. Before the prince, I had utterly lost my dignified and graceful demeanor. Fortunately, in recent days, the prince had been visiting Lady Li, who awaited his presence with an ardor that ignited her spirit, prompting her to come forth repeatedly. Chapter 41 Talent Showcase. As the melodious strains of music filled the air, the elegantly attired dancers graced the gathering with their enchanting movements. After several rounds of wine, the generals gradually shed their inhibitions. Having once thrived on the battlefield, they possessed little of the delicate sensibilities often associated with the cultured elite. The clinking of cups was accompanied by laughter and revelry. Some intoxicated officers gazed intently at the captivating dancers, their desires unmistakably evident. The officials of rank from the territory of the Qi king were present, exhibiting far more decorum than their martial counterparts, though even they could not entirely conceal their lascivious inclinations, adopting a facade of appreciation instead. Lin Moyan sat composedly among the literary officials, as serene and tranquil as ever, exuding an elegance reminiscent of fragrant orchids. Chapter 42 Dance of the Sword. As the clock struck midnight, the king of Chi showed no signs of concluding the banquet. The warriors were flushed with drink, their faces aglow, while the scholars also reveled in the warmth of intoxication. Though the king had consumed a considerable amount of wine, his tolerance was remarkable. Only his alabaster cheeks bore a rosy hue, while his gaze remained sharp and clear. At this moment, he observed my lack of vigor and gently inquired, "Are you feeling tired, Yue?" I nodded honestly. "Your Highness, I feel a bit unwell. May I take my leave?" "What ails you, Yue?" he asked with increasing concern, raising his hand to touch my forehead. Chapter 43 The gathering storm. The Chi King did not immediately erupt. Instead, he fixated his gaze on Sima Huan with an inscrutable expression. Sima Huan respectfully bowed and greeted, "Your Highness." "Who are you?" the Chi King inquired coldly. "I am but a humble guard of the royal residence," Sima Huan replied. The Chi King squinted in suspicion. "Why have I never encountered you before?" "My lord, it was I who took him in at the royal palace," I interjected, my heart racing with trepidation. I had intended to introduce him to the Chi King at an opportune moment, yet Sima Huan's impatience had thwarted my plans. The Chi King cast a surprised glance in my direction. Chapter 44 A confrontation. Upon encountering Zhong Concubine, I beheld her son, Xiaohua, a remarkably handsome child who bore a striking resemblance to Prince Chi. Zhong Concubine, taken aback by my visit to inquire after her health, hastily instructed her son to pay his respects. "Hua, quickly kneel and greet the princess." Xiaohua, ever obedient and well-mannered, gracefully knelt and proclaimed, "This child, Xiaohua, pays his respects to the princess." I was somewhat astonished. It was indeed impressive that Zhong Concubine had raised such an elegant and refined child. "Has the imperial physician been summoned?" I inquired, noting the pallor of Zhong Concubine's complexion, a clear indication of her grave illness. Cough, cough. Zhong Concubine coughed. Chapter 45 Confusion. I caught up with Lin Moyan. "Brother Lin." Upon hearing my voice, he halted, turning back to face me, his expression scarcely more amiable than that of Prince Chi. "Brother Lin, you need not worry. I shall ensure that the prince does not harm you." "Where?" "Do not concern yourself with this matter." He offered a nonchalant smile, wishing to shield me from Prince Chi's potential ire. "The prince treats me well. He would not hold me accountable." As I spoke, recollections of Prince Chi's chilling countenance surged to the forefront of my mind, causing my confidence to wane. Even if he truly were to lay blame, I would still. Chapter 46 Compromise. I awoke in the middle of the night, in a hazy state, sensing a hand gently caressing my hair. In truth, my sleep was far from peaceful. I lingered in a dreamlike, half-awake stupor. A familiar, delicate fragrance wafted into my nostrils, rousing me slightly. As I opened my eyes in a daze, I found him there. The prince. I sat up. The Prince of Chi gazed at the remnants of tears upon my face, his voice soft and detached. "Why has the princess wept again?" I did not cry. I lowered my gaze, wishing to conceal my emotions from him, secretly mourning for. Chapter 47 Lord Longyang. This morning, not only was I unable to rise from my bed, but the king also, for the first time, chose to remain by my side instead of attending to his duties. Outside, snowflakes danced wildly in the air, while inside, the atmosphere was as warm as spring. A delicate and enchanting fragrance wafted through the room, teasing the senses in the dim light. The Lord exuded a captivating scent. I found myself leaning closer, irresistibly drawn to inhale the aroma emanating from his neck. I pondered on the source of such a delightful fragrance, for I had never seen him use any perfume. His arms encircled my waist as he gently closed his eyes, a soft smile playing on his lips. I found it hard to believe. Could it be that his very being was imbued with such a sweet aroma? Chapter 48 The Tota Princess. The Prince of Chi hosted a banquet at the royal residence to entertain the Tota Princess. I donned male attire and transformed into a striking young gentleman. The prince gazed at me with unwavering attention, It is no wonder that the Tota princess has succumbed to lovesickness. If I were indeed a man, it seems even the prince would find it hard to resist, and would likely take me as his favored male companion. What does my lord desire of me? I wore an expression of reluctance. As a favored companion, what duties are expected of me? A sense of foreboding washed over me. I am to accompany His Highness in drinking, to serve him, and so forth. Chapter 49 The schemes of Consort Xiong. For several consecutive days, I have remained indoors. Both Lon Jin and Shon Hu are aware of the incident where the prince compelled me to drink wine mouth to mouth, and undoubtedly, this scandal has spread throughout the royal residence. As a dignified princess, my grace and authority have been utterly diminished by such an affair. The prince has not visited during this time, as news has reached us that the emperor intends to dispatch a special envoy to our fief. A heavy atmosphere of tension now envelopes us, shrouded in uncertainty about what may unfold next, whether it be fortune or misfortune, auspicious or ominous. With no appetite whatsoever, I merely sipped a bowl of soup and contemplated retiring to bed. Chapter 50 Xiao Hua. Dr. Chen, like Dr. Lao Hon, is of a similar age. His square visage adorned with a multitude of wrinkles, and his slightly drooping eyelids barely conceal a pair of eyes weathered by the vicissitudes of life. 3 wisps of grey-white beard frame his face, exuding a demeanor that is both composed and cautious. He has dutifully served as a court physician in the Prince of Qi's residence for over a decade, performing his responsibilities with utmost diligence, never overstepping his bounds. Dr. Chen. Is there something amiss with my health? I inquired with a hint of concern. The news of concubine Lu's pregnancy unsettled me. It was said that she too conceived on her first attempt. Given that the Prince of Qi frequents my quarters more than any other, it was evident that the issue might lie with me. Chapter 51 Understanding others' faces but not their hearts. On pleasant days, I would take Snowball to the garden, allowing it to frolic freely. The harsh, frigid climate of the frontier seldom grants us many days of fair weather, particularly in winter. The biting cold and fierce winds stir up clouds of dust, obscuring the sun, which struggles to shine through the gloom. The garden is adorned with numerous evergreen trees. Although they may not rival the exotic flowers of the royal gardens in the capital, they still provide a delightful sight amidst the starkness of winter. Snowball runs ahead, while I follow closely behind. After a leisurely stroll, I call out to Snowball, who understands it is time to return. Chapter 52 Unaware of the world, our meal had grown cold as King Qi finally made his entrance. Is there something worth celebrating today? His brow bore a hint of fatigue, and he gazed in surprise at the table laden with food and drink. Why did you arrive so late, Your Highness? I did not greet him warmly. Recently, there has been an overwhelming amount of affairs concerning my fief, and I must also host the Emperor's envoy, in addition to preparing. Noticing my displeasure, he stepped closer, wrapped his arm around my waist, and gently coaxed, You must understand my burdens, do not act like a child. Am I a child? Chapter 53 The informant. As I was severing my breakfast, Lu, the favored concubine, came to pay her respects. She expressed her apologies for arriving early and interrupting the princess's meal, her gaze inadvertently drifting towards the exquisite bird's nest soup I was enjoying. It was the most precious blood nest, prepared daily with utmost care by the kitchen upon the special order of the Qi King, due to Physician Chen's concerns regarding my vitality. Have you taken your meal, Lady Lu? If not, please sit and partake in a little. I have already dined, she replied, a tinge of bitterness lacing her words. Moreover, I am not fortunate enough to indulge in such a luxurious delicacy. Her tone carried an undercurrent of envy. For even in her pregnancy, she and concubine Chao found themselves unable to partake in such delights. Chapter 54 Inability to forgive. I fell ill and became taciturn. I would sit all day clutching a snowball, lost in thought. Even when Prince Qi visited, I remained listless. No matter how gentle he was with me, I felt nothing. The venomous words of concubine Chao struck my heart like a sharp dagger, a wound that could never heal. 3 years ago, my elder brother visited me after being promoted by Prince Qi, who held him in high esteem. The palpable gloom surrounding me alarmed him. and he sensed that something was amiss. "What has happened to Yue? Is she unwell?" he inquired. "Brother." Chapter 55, Human Affection. As thin as paper during the new year, snow fell in a flurry, thick and abundant. Its brilliance reflecting off the papered windows and illuminating a delicate white jade incense burner adorned with intricate carvings, from which fragrant smoke spiraled gracefully into the air. This exquisite incense, sent by the King of Qi, was a rare tribute from the western regions. Renowned not only for its enchanting aroma but also for its remarkable ability to ward off the chill. As Lady Jiang entered the cozy chamber, she could not help but feel envious. Indeed, this incense is a treasure. The princess's quarters are so delightfully warm. I have burned 3 braziers of charcoal in my own space, yet it remains painfully cold. I merely listened, concealing my awareness of her pretense, akin to that of a cunning fox. Chapter 56, The new favorite. A few days later, I encountered Lady Li's cousin. This year, during the New Year celebrations, Prince Qi was particularly exuberant, hosting lavish banquets that lasted throughout the night and organizing grand fireworks displays for the Lantern Festival. The entire city was adorned with splendid lanterns, and the 10-mile-long street shimmered with brilliant lights, resembling a dazzling display of fire and silver flowers. On the evening of the Lantern Festival, Prince Qi sent word that I, as his princess, must accompany him to admire the lanterns and fireworks celebrating alongside the people. It had been over 10 days since I last saw Prince Qi, as he had been residing at Lady Li's. In truth, there was no need for Lady Jiang to convey this message, it had already spread throughout the residence. Chapter 57, The Lantern of the Little White Rabbit. The lanterns hung high in the market, radiant as day, casting a kaleidoscope of colors that illuminated the entire marketplace with a dazzling brilliance. As the grand procession of the Qi King passed by, the bustling crowd stirred, swiftly parting like a tide to make way for the magnificent display. I sat in the carriage, gazing vacantly at the throngs of people lining the streets and the ever-shifting lanterns that danced like a kaleidoscope outside the window. Though the world beyond was alive with exuberance, it felt as though it had receded into a distant realm, far removed from my own experience. The carriage gradually rolled past a group gathered by the roadside, eagerly engaged in solving riddles posed by the lanterns, and my eyes were immediately drawn to that particular lantern. Chapter 58, The Garden. In the days that followed, I seldom ventured outside. Lan Jin, consumed by concern for my melancholy, was aware of the affliction that plagued my heart. She frequently sought various means to encourage me not to succumb to such despair. "Your Highness, remaining cooped up indoors is detrimental to your health. You must summon your spirits. Once your health is restored, good news will surely follow. Ling Jin, please cease your attempts at consolation. I have resigned myself to the fact that I shall bear no children," I replied with a bitter smile. On one occasion, when Physician Chen came to take my pulse, I persistently pressed him for the truth, and at last, he revealed the reality of my condition. It was solely due to Chapter 59, Joyful news. Days passed in a languid manner, until one splendid spring day, I received delightful news. The Emperor's envoy had arrived, and it was none other than my elder brother, Chu Haoting. My heart soared with joy, and I scarcely slept a wink that night. Ever since my brother was stationed at the border, it had been 7 or 8 long years since our last meeting. He bears a striking resemblance to our father, possessing an unwavering character, loyalty to the throne, and a profound sense of patriotism. Among my 3 brothers, he excels in martial prowess, strategic insight, and remarkable courage. Even Prince Qi holds my brother in high esteem, regarding him as a rare talent among generals. I awoke early, eagerly anticipating the evening's arrival. Chapter 60, Coercion. I had anticipated that after the banquet, King Qi would retire to the chambers of Consort Li. To my astonishment, he instead sought solace in my presence. Unlike the past, our interaction was devoid of any meaningful exchange. There was no tenderness or affection to speak of. When he stripped off his garments and descended upon me, he was consumed by a primal ferocity, as if he were unleashing the most savage of desires. I did not experience a harmonious union, rather, I was engulfed in pain. with my alabaster skin marred by deep crimson marks left in the wake of his indulgence. Eventually, he rose and regarded me coldly, observing the tears upon my face. What is this? Does the princess refuse to serve her king? Chapter 61. Cold-hearted, the Lu concubine gave birth to a daughter. Yet the Chi prince did not cast a single glance in her direction. Although her fate was not as tragic as that of concubine Chao, she was nonetheless despised by the Chi prince and completely lost his favor. Madame Jiang invited me for a stroll in the garden. Despite my profound disdain for her duplicitous nature, her honeyed words concealing malice, I still recalled the small kindnesses she had shown me in the past, such as gifting me rouge and powder. Moreover, I sought to rejuvenate my spirit. Lan Jin was right, I could no longer allow my emotions to dictate my actions. Continuing to harbor resentment towards Madame Li and the Chi prince would not only be detrimental to me but, more critically, it would also implicate my elder brother and third brother, Madame Jiang. Chapter 62. The piercing insight of Madame Jiang, the steward of the Inner Affairs Court, informed Coral that in order to leave the residence, she must first seek permission from the prince. My lady, I have also inquired, the prince is currently with concubine Li, Coral reported. While strolling in the garden with Madame Jiang, she could not help but mention the Li sisters. Regarding concubine Li, Madame Jiang made a pointed observation, declaring her to be nothing more than a seductress. Despite the seemingly innocent and charming demeanor of Madame Li's cousin, it is said that she exhibits a shocking libertinism in private. Rumor has it that before being sent to the residence, the Li family had even arranged for courtesans to impart various intimate acts to her. Chapter 63. The truth with the experience of my previous clandestine escapade. I managed to exit the royal palace with remarkable ease this time as well. Before my departure, I repeatedly reassured the anxious Lan Jin, assuring her that I was merely going to see my elder brother and would return promptly. Rest assured, no one will discover my absence, I declared. Lan Jin, however, implored me to return swiftly, cautioning that if Prince Chi were to find out, the consequences would be dire. I fully understood her concerns, yet I chose to perceive the situation optimistically. Prince Chi had been with concubine Li, and the Li sisters would undoubtedly ensure that he remained occupied, preventing him from having the opportunity to visit me. Thus, how could he possibly know of my departure from the palace? Furthermore, when I met my elder brother, I would only need to say a few words. Chapter 64. Abduction. In a state of utter disarray, I stealthily departed from my elder brother's residence, standing upon the street, my mind a blank canvas. I gazed vacantly at the throngs of people bustling by, momentarily at a loss as to where to turn next. I was entirely oblivious to the approach of two men, clad in the attire of the Hu people, as they made their way toward me. Esteemed sir, I implore you to accompany us, one of the imposing figures spoke, his dark skin and robust stature accentuating the ferocity of his presence. His companion, similarly formidable, stood beside him. The man in black, struggling with his Mandarin, addressed me with an air of authority. Chapter 65. Escape. I found myself at a loss, resigned to fate at this juncture. The Tartar princess, observing my lowered head and silence, drew closer to me, her desires ignited. The intoxicating fragrance emanating from her enveloped me, rendering me breathless and instinctively causing me to hold my breath. My lord, you are the most exquisite man I have ever encountered. Her lips nearly grazed my cheek, stirred by a burgeoning affection that urged her to draw intimate. In a moment of panic, I recoiled to the corner of the carriage, seeking refuge from her enticing lips. Upon realizing she had not achieved her desired closeness, the Tartar princess's expression shifted abruptly. Chapter 66. The arrow struck, the black steed galloped with unparalleled speed, and I felt the exhilarating rush of wind whistling past my ears. Amid the tension, there was a liberating sense of thrill. It had been quite some time since I had experienced such unbridled joy in riding. However, this bliss was short-lived. I soon heard the cacophony of shouts behind me. Turning my head, I beheld a swirling cloud of dust, as the Tartar cavalry pursued relentlessly. I quickly tightened the reins, pressing my legs firmly against the horse's flank, and urged the black stallion with fervent shouts of "Go!" Go. The horse surged forward, its hooves striking the ground like shooting stars racing across the night sky. The swirling dust obscured my vision, and I lowered my body, nearly flattening myself against the horse's back, gripping the reins tightly, as if my very being melded with the swift creature beneath me. Chapter 67, Salvation. I did not perish. However, due to excessive blood loss, I lapsed into a week-long coma. At the moment I was abducted by the Tatars, it happened that Chufu was a witness. He hurriedly rushed to deliver the news, prompting my elder brother to swiftly inform the king of Chi. Upon receiving the alarming tidings, the king immediately mobilized his troops in pursuit, ultimately rescuing me at the last moment. Of course, these events were revealed to me only later. The arrow had pierced my scapula, and by the time the king rescued me, my body was already drenched in blood. Throughout my days of unconsciousness, he remained by my side, never once leaving me unattended. When I awoke, Chapter 68, falling into the trap after applying the scar cream sent by King Chi for a month, it appeared to have some effect, however. The scar on my chest remained an unsightly, prominent red bump that plagued my thoughts. I lamented the prospect of this hideous mark accompanying me for a lifetime when Coral entered, brimming with excitement, carrying a delicately crafted silver cage. Inside the cage, 2 fluffy white rabbits sat quietly. Coral, from where did you acquire these 2 rabbits? Lon Jin inquired with curiosity. These rabbits were personally delivered by Steward Chen, who said they were for the princess's amusement. Chapter 69, Punishing the Malevolent Slave. I instructed the guard to convey my message to the Prince of Chi. Yet as the night grew deeper, he failed to arrive. Anxiety consumed me as I paced restlessly within the confines of my chamber, entertaining wild speculations about the reasons for his absence. Was it possible that the prince had no desire to meet with me? Or had he sought the company of Consort Li once more? After all, as Madame Jiang had remarked, Consort Li possessed remarkable allure even in her condition. She could enthrall the prince to the point of obsession. Lon Jin. Lon Jin. My impatience reached a peak, prompting me to resolve to seek out the prince myself. Both Lon Jin and Coral hurried to my side upon hearing my voice and seeing me in the midst of changing my attire. Coral swiftly approached to assist me in fastening my garments. Chapter 70, The Chamber. Once again, I profoundly realized how crucial it is for the women of the royal residence to earn the favor of the prince. A mere servant beside a favored concubine could display such arrogance and haughtiness, disregarding even my status as a princess. Consequently, I unreservedly reprimanded her under my command. A little maid trembled as she delivered several stinging slaps to Chanchin. The blows were not light, leaving Chanchin's face flushed and swollen. Take me to see the prince, I ordered, unwilling to cast another glance at this insolent servant who thrived on her master's power. Chapter 71. Disheartened, I have come to thwart the Prince of Chi's journey to the capital, to warn him of the treacherous Xiao Shonshan, who is lying in wait with sinister intentions. The path to the capital is fraught with peril. Yet, his mind drifts elsewhere. My lord, I truly have something of utmost importance to convey to you. But the prince seems oblivious to my words. Perhaps his thoughts are consumed by the memory of that night when the moonlight graced my figure with its ethereal glow. Yet, I cannot afford to feel bashful. I must ensure he understands the grave danger that lies ahead. Chapter 72. The Despicable Prince. This time, Prince Chi entered the capital with no ostentation, accompanied by merely over 100 lightly equipped guards. Having secured his consent, I donned the attire of a guard and disguised myself to accompany him. Coral, unable to ride a horse, had to remain behind. Before my departure, her eyes were swollen from crying, not solely due to her inability to return to the capital, but also from her reluctance to part with me. Choking back her sobs, she repeatedly implored, I shall await the return of the princess. The princess must come back. Both she and Lon Jin are astute individuals, and they likely sensed that my return to the capital was not merely a longing for home. Yet, they could not comprehend the perils that lay ahead on this journey. Chapter 73. Serving tea. Inside the chamber, the exquisite fragrance of ambergris permeated the air, enveloping the room in an intoxicating aroma. The Prince of Qi was not reclining on the bed, instead. He languidly leaned against a magnificent brocade couch situated near the grandly carved window. Outside, a full moon hung in the sky, its crystalline light streaming through the window and cascading upon his lustrous white silk robe. Strands of his moonlit black hair cascaded carelessly over his bare shoulders. His starry eyes were gently closed, thick eyelashes partially concealing those eyes that often exuded a chilling allure. Due to the effects of intoxication, his jade-like cheeks were flushed, and his sharply defined lips appeared as if adorned with a delicate layer of powder. Chapter 74. Entering the capital restlessly, I lay upon the opulent bed, unable to close my eyes throughout the night. In the dead of night, I cautiously lifted the curtain to steal a glance outside. As promised, Prince Qi was indeed leaning against the brocade couch, indulging in solitary libations. The moonlight, now more radiant than ever, enveloped him, casting an interplay of light and shadow upon his figure. He appeared so cold and lonely, a stark contrast to the hedonistic revelry from earlier. Once again embodying the hardened and ruthless demeanor forged through years of warfare, I found myself utterly perplexed by him, unable to comprehend the true nature of his heart, nor discern which aspect of him was authentic. Chapter 75. Audience. The pallid moonlight cast its glow upon the imposing palace walls, shrouding the royal abode in shadows, reminiscent of a ferocious beast lurking in the darkness. The palace attendants, bearing ghostly lanterns, led the way, their feeble candlelight illuminating only a fleeting stretch of the path ahead, while the impenetrable darkness loomed ominously, sending shivers down one's spine. As we traversed the path, I ventured to inquire about the condition of Prince Qi, however. The cunning and astute eunuch Chen feigned ignorance, remaining tight-lipped about the emperor's summons for my presence in the palace. The uncertainty that lay ahead only heightened my unease. Yet I resolved to remain steadfast in my determination. Chapter 76. Unwholesome intentions. I maintained a considerable distance from Xiao Zhonwan, ultimately capturing his attention. Why are you so reserved? Where? Is it because I am the emperor that you have grown distant with me? He inquired softly, drawing closer. Your Majesty summoned me for a purpose. I nervously retreated a step, feeling increasingly unsettled by Xiao Zhonwan's evident intentions. Do you still not comprehend my feelings? He seemed unwilling to squander any more time, directly articulating his thoughts, his eyes resembling willow leaves. Chapter 77. Unable to escape, Xiao Zhonwan seemed to have forgotten that I hailed from a family of martial generals. Although my skills were lacking, they were more than sufficient to deal with a frail emperor like him. Ultimately, I managed to extricate myself from his embrace. As I glanced back, Xiao Zhonwan was gasping for breath, his cheeks flushed a deep crimson, and his eyes still ablaze with a fervent desire. Once his breathing had somewhat calmed, he spoke in a hoarse voice, "As the emperor, I am coveted by countless women who yearn for my affection, dreaming of becoming my beloved concubine. Does not you wish to receive my exclusive favor and become the most esteemed woman in the realm?" Chapter 78. The Palace of Kuanning. The Palace of Kuanning, where my elder sister resides, is undeniably magnificent, yet it exudes an uncanny chill. The palace is illuminated by flickering candles, their soft glow casting a radiant light upon the resplendent walls and opulent decorations, making them appear even more vibrant. However, every corner is permeated with a sense of solitude, devoid of the splendor and wealth one might expect, leaving only an overwhelming feeling of endless desolation and melancholy. As the night deepens, my sister still commands that exquisite court pastries be brought forth. These delicacies have been prepared for you long in advance, do try them, dear sister. She smiles at me with the same affectionate indulgence as before. How could I possibly bring myself to partake? Chapter 79. The way out. I remained in my sister's Kuanning palace for 3 consecutive days. Although the reunion with her brought joy, my heart was persistently troubled by thoughts of Prince Qi. In the depths of the palace, I could glean no tidings of him. Nor could I ascertain whether he was aware of my confinement by the emperor within the palace walls. Throughout these 3 days, Xiao Zhonwan sent a considerable array of exquisite silks and jeweled ornaments, with attendants bustling to and fro, injecting a semblance of liveliness into the otherwise desolate Kuanning palace. This situation not only instilled a sense of foreboding within me but also weighed heavily on my sister's heart. Nevertheless, she endeavored to soothe my anxieties. According to news relayed from the previous dynasty, the matter of my enforced stay in the palace had begun to circulate. Chapter 80, Young Guife. On the 5th day of my stay in the cunning palace with my elder sister, I encountered the highly favored young Guife, who was the sister of a general greatly trusted by the emperor. She was petite and graceful, her enchanting figure complemented by a meticulously applied visage that rendered her strikingly beautiful. Adorned in resplendent attire, the jingling of her accessories echoed as she moved. Her elegantly styled hair, elevated in a lofty bun, was embellished with pearls, agates, and jade, reflecting a luminescent splendor befitting a favored consort. At the moment of her arrival, I was feeding fish by the lotus pond with my sister. This pond, situated within the courtyard of the main hall, was home to many plump and vibrant fish. Chapter 81, The Exchange of Military Authority. 2 days swiftly passed, and Shao Zhonwan no longer sent gifts with the same fervor as before. The Kuan-Ning palace of my elder sister returned to its previous state of desolation. I found myself idly observing her as she meticulously embroidered a plum blossom. This was the final white blossom on a branch she had been skillfully crafting. My sister held a particular fondness for embroidering plum blossoms. Perhaps it was only in the company of these blossoms that she could endure the solitude of the deep palace. Where, once I have completed this handkerchief, please present it to Brother Lin. Sister, I am uncertain when I shall be able to leave the palace. Chapter 82, Exiting the palace. The following day, Shao Zhonwan indeed arranged for my departure from the imperial palace. My elder sister accompanied me to the palace gates. Diligently adjusting my attire and carefully tucking the strands of hair that the wind had disheveled behind my ears, with heartfelt concern, she admonished, Yue, as we part. We do not know when we shall meet again. You must exercise utmost caution henceforth. Sister, you must take care of yourself as well. My eyes brimmed with tears at the thought of my sister enduring the solitude of the cold, desolate palace, bearing the emperor's neglect while contending with the scheming, power-hungry concubines. The mere contemplation filled me with a profound sense of anguish. Chapter 83, Staying in the capital. Lord Liu did not come to escort me back on behalf of Prince Qi, he merely delivered a message and departed. The prince is set to return to his fief in the coming days, yet he has chosen to leave me here in the capital without any explanation. It is evident that he has effectively dismissed me, with only the formalities of a divorce decree pending. For the first time, my elder brother wore a frown. His expression darkened. Where could it be that His Highness Prince Qi harbors some misunderstanding towards you? I shall seek him out for clarification. My elder brother, of course, had also heard of the emperor's decision to keep me forcibly within the palace. Although I have resided with my elder sister, maintaining my innocence. Chapter 84, The Trials of Affection. These past few days have left me feeling rather despondent. Observing my lackluster demeanor, my elder brother, in an effort to lift my spirits, decided to take me out for a day of amusement just as he used to. Muir, allow me to treat you to some delightful delicacies, he exclaimed. Yet, I found myself reluctant to join him. A grand new restaurant had opened on East Street, resplendent in its grandeur, serving exquisite dishes and featuring delightful musical performances that created a lively atmosphere. My brother, well aware of my fondness for bustling environments, sighed and inquired, Muir, is it that you cannot let go of Prince Qi? Chapter 85, Deeply rooted emotions. Initially, I was unaware of how Prince Qi had come to the tavern. It was only later that I learned he had sent eunuch Liu to the general's residence. Is Yue intoxicated once again? He teased, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. I replied, my relationship with the prince is over, whether I am inebriated or not is no longer of concern to him. The thought of him witnessing my drunken state once more ignited a flash of embarrassment upon my cheeks. Yet, the memory of his heartlessness swiftly ignited a surge of anger within me. Since Yue wishes to sever ties with me, I shall respect her choice, he declared. Chapter 86, Reluctance. I discerned the farewell embedded in his words. A sudden wave of panic washed over me, accompanied by an unsettling premonition that this parting might herald our last encounter. Yet, he held me within his embrace as though reluctant to let go. At this moment, all I desire is beauty, forsaking the throne, he murmured softly, pressing his cheek against mine. A flicker of dread surged within me. His words unmistakably hinted at a sovereign's ambition. Your Highness, such words are inappropriate, I swiftly replied, breaking free from his embrace. Chapter 87 Moths to the flame. After the Qi King relinquished his military authority, the emperor finally felt somewhat reassured and permitted the Qi King to return to his fief. In truth, the Qi King's journey to the capital was a perilous gamble. He had anticipated that Xiao Zhonwan, with his inherently weak character and a profound emphasis on benevolence and familial ties, would never act against the Qi King, who publicly professed loyalty, especially under the scrutiny of the court. The Qi King's intuition proved correct. Several of Xiao Zhonwan's chief ministers, including my father, repeatedly urged him to seize this opportune moment to diminish the Qi King's power as a feudal lord. Yet, Xiao Zhonwan remained indecisive. Chapter 88 The assault. I was utterly exhausted. The fatigue from the journey and the jolting motions had drained me of the strength to even speak. I leaned against him, and before I knew it, I had succumbed to slumber. Time slipped away, and I gradually became aware of the horses slowing their pace. I slowly opened my eyes to find myself in a bustling marketplace, flanked by an array of goods on either side. The street was alive with a throng of people, as if they were gathered for a grand fair, filled with vibrant activity. As the moon awakened, the Prince Qi, noticing my stirrings, lowered his head, his gaze imbued with tenderness. It was then that I realized he was holding me tightly with one arm. Chapter 89 Returning to the mansion. Upon the prince's return, the entire royal residence erupted with excitement. However, before Prince Qi could rid himself of the dust of travel, he summoned his trusted generals to convene within the palace. Meanwhile, Lan Jin and Shan Hu, who had eagerly awaited my return, were overwhelmed with joy. After Shan Hu prepared a steaming bath for me, I indulged in a comforting soak. Shan Hu, ever considerate, even offered a gentle massage for my shoulders and neck, which lulled me into a delightful slumber. My rest was particularly refreshing, as if it had banished all the weariness accumulated from my journey. When I finally reopened my eyes, time had swiftly passed. Chapter 90 Deadly rumors. The family dinner was filled with warmth and joy. King Qi began to examine Xiao Hua's studies, to which Xiao Hua responded fluently. His thoughts were clear and he spoke eloquently, showcasing a solid foundation of knowledge and sharp analytical skills. King Qi was immensely pleased and expressed his admiration for Xiao Hua. In turn, Xiao Hua could hardly conceal his excitement and elation at his father's praise. Observing King Qi's cheerful demeanor, I seized the opportunity to suggest, Your Highness, perhaps we could invite Hua to dine in my courtyard from now on. This would afford him greater opportunities to meet with you and benefit from your guidance, undoubtedly accelerating his academic progress. Chapter 91 Entangled in my own web. These rumors are far more terrifying than I ever imagined. I know that this matter cannot be clarified. At that time, I naively believed that the truth would prevail. I held no inappropriate relationship with the emperor, and thus, my heart was unburdened, leading me to disregard the situation. However, I overlooked a fundamental truth: words can tarnish gold, and accumulated slander can obliterate one's reputation. The tongues of men wield a deadly power, capable of inflicting harm in the most insidious ways. Such gossip is unbearable for an ordinary man, let alone for a dignified prince. So these rumors not only jeopardize my standing, they threaten to annihilate me entirely. Chapter 92 As cold as ice. In a moment of melancholy, I took Snowball to the garden for a respite. Having been cooped up indoors for far too long, Snowball joyfully dashed into a vibrant cluster of blossoms. Concerned that he might wander too far, I promptly asked Coral to search for him. Your Highness, there is a stone over there. Please take a seat and rest for a while. Not far ahead, nestled in a grove of lush greenery, lay a perfectly flat piece of blue stone, ideal for resting. I, too, felt a bit fatigued, and coupled with my troubled mood, found little energy to continue wandering, waiting for Coral's return. Chapter 93 The prescription. I cannot recall how I returned to my beloved Ayue garden. I merely felt a heaviness in my head and a lightness in my feet. My body rendered cold and numb. Yet, I managed to endure without collapsing, and I did not shed a single tear. Instead, my heart felt as though it had transformed into a desolate wasteland, stark and terrifying in its barrenness. Coral, oblivious to my distress, trailed behind me, tugging at the ears of the snowball in her arms while scolding it in irritation. "If you keep running about, the princess shall no longer take you to the garden." At that moment, I found myself envious of Coral, who frolicked through life without a care, radiating joy, much like the person I once was. Chapter 94, Snowball. I have long abandoned hope regarding the matter of children. And I find it hard to believe that the ancestral prescription could heal my body in merely 7 days. Even if my body were to recover, my heart would remain ashen. The absence of children holds no significance for me. Nevertheless, Longin and Sean, who, filled with hope, diligently prepared and brewed the medicine for me. Time passes swiftly, and before I knew it, the 7 days had swiftly elapsed. Longin and Sean, who began to eagerly await the arrival of Prince Chi, for without him, the possibility of children would remain elusive. Sean, who, in her anxiety, ventured out to gather information. Chapter 95, A warning to the monkey. Snowball met a tragic end. It had dashed into the courtyard of Lady Li, who was particularly fearful of cats. Consequently, the servants seized it, and by the time Coral arrived, drawn by the anguished cries of Snowball, it had been reduced to a mangled mass. One of the servants, having thrown Snowball out of the courtyard, encountered Coral and deliberately tossed the lifeless creature before her, arrogantly declaring that this wildcat had emerged from nowhere and frightened their lady, whose delicate constitution was most susceptible to such terrors. He continued, with an air of importance, that when the prince arrived, the lady would report this incident to him, insisting that henceforth no cats should be permitted within the royal residence. Chapter 96, A Heart of Vipers. At dawn, Lord Lu, accompanied by 2 young eunuchs, arrived at my courtyard. Coral has cast concubinely, a grave offense against authority. The prince has decreed that this servant be punished with 20 strikes as a warning to others. After delivering the command from Prince Chi with a stern countenance, Lord Lu swiftly donned a smile, saying, "Forgive me, my lady, this old servant merely acts upon the prince's orders." As he spoke, he discreetly signaled to the 2 young eunuchs. Understanding the unspoken cue, they promptly approached, seizing Coral firmly on either side. Coral's face turned pale with fear, her wide eyes filled with terror. Chapter 97, The Birthday Feast. On the occasion of the Chi Wang's birthday, the royal residence was abuzz with excitement. Officials arrived in a steady stream to extend their congratulations, their gifts accumulating into towering piles that stretched all the way to the entrance. In the garden, a lengthy banquet was laid out, adorned with an array of exquisite delicacies. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with melodious music and graceful dances. A grand stage was erected in the courtyard, where performers captivated the audience with operatic displays and various acts of skill and magic, creating an atmosphere of lively merriment. Seated at the head of the table, the Chi Wang donned a splendid crimson ceremonial robe, his hair adorned with a golden crown embellished with flowing tassels depicting auspicious dragons. Despite the festive occasion, his visage bore no trace of joy. Instead, his pallor was striking, reminiscent of a ghostly hue, accentuating the depth of his dark eyes. Chapter 98, The Unparalleled Beauty. At the table, Vi did not see third brother. I heard that he had ventured deep into the northern desert to pursue the enemies invading our borders. Such is the life of a military general, engaged in years of relentless campaigns, sacrificing oneself without a second thought. Eldest brother sat with several officials dispatched by the emperor to supervise Prince Chi. He maintained a composed demeanor, his gaze focused inward, seemingly oblivious to my presence. Eldest brother's stance appeared unequivocal, resolutely supporting the emperor, as if he would not hesitate to sacrifice familial ties for the greater good. My gaze then fell upon Lin Mo Yen, who remained poised and dignified at the table. Chapter 99, Unresolved Emotions. I fabricated a casual excuse to excuse myself, aware that Prince Chi was engrossed in flirtation with Lady Li and would likely remain oblivious to my departure. Hastily, I sought Lin Mo Yan, and before long, I spotted him beside a grove of bamboo, hands clasped behind his back, gazing upward at the swaying green stalks in the breeze. "Brother Lin." I quickened my pace towards him. Upon hearing my voice, Lin Moyan turned, his expression tinged with a profound melancholy, even a hint of sorrow. "What brings you here, Yue?" His surprise was evident upon seeing me. "I came to find you," I replied, drawing closer and revealing a gentle smile. Chapter 100. The chess piece. As the first tear fell painfully, an uncontrollable torrent followed, akin to a flood breaching its dam. Lin Moyan did not offer me words of consolation. Instead, he permitted me to weep freely, allowing all the sorrow and anguish within my heart to pour forth. Gradually, as my tears subsided, he approached me and tenderly took out a handkerchief to gently wipe my tear-streaked face. "Let me help you," he said. "For if we return to the gathering now, everyone will notice your makeup has run." His words rang true. My fervent weeping had surely ruined the exquisite makeup Coral had painstakingly applied. If I did not conceal it,